Chapter 45-35. Lin Ling also entered a state of cultivation when he sensed that pure white maiden was cultivating. What a rich spiritual energy! A warm current flowed into Lin Ling's body, giving him an indescribable sense of comfort. The effects of the pure heavenly spirit comet fluid were not something the divine spring could compare to. Not only did it increase Lin Ling's cultivation realm, but it also increased his divine energy and physical strength. Most importantly, it also increased Lin Ling's soul energy. The word wisdom in the pure heavenly spirit comet fluid explained everything. The cultivation of a god depends not only on one's foundation, but also on the universe's most desolate grade treasures. Luck is the most important factor in obtaining these ancient desolate grade treasures. Lin Ling sighed inwardly. If he had not coincidentally found pure white maiden's father, Lin Ling might not have been able to obtain such a precious treasure. This water seems to have a spirit. There's no need to refine it at all. It actually flows into my dantian by itself. After sighing, Lin Ling sensed that his cultivation was increasing rapidly. Moreover, this increase had no side effects. It was gentle and vigorous. His dantian was constantly transforming. Lin Ling did not even need to activate the Chaos Divine Formula, as the ancient spiritual energy continued to nourish his dantian. Looks like it won't be difficult to make a breakthrough. Lin Ling's lips curled into a smile. He had made many breakthroughs, but the progress was always slow. Now he finally felt the signs of a breakthrough. And with this breakthrough, Lin Ling was confident that he could dominate among the lower gods. In fact, with his current strength, there were very few late-stage lower gods who could defeat him, unless they were monstrous existences. Ancient Thunder Beast. Lin Ling took out the treasure he had obtained at the Divine Land Conference and gently placed it in front of him. He controlled the white lightning to wrap around the bone and slowly refine it. The bones of the ancient Thunder Beast were very hard and hard to refine. If not for the feedback from the Luai's true body, Lin Ling might not have snatched the bone treasure away from Lin Ling. After the white lightning wrapped around the bones, it slowly seeped into the bones and began to refine the mysterious energy from within. Lin Ling sensed that this kind of refinement would take a long time. So he also entered a state of comprehension. All the martial arts he had learned in his life slowly flowed through his mind, as if history was repeating itself. Lin Ling had practiced martial arts for 2 lifetimes. In his first life, Li Xiaoyao had rich martial arts experience. In his second life, Lin Ling was even better than Li Xiaoyao. The martial arts experience of 2 lifetimes flowed into his mind. Undoubtedly, it was also slowly increasing the foundation for a breakthrough. And this kind of memory, from simple to complex, from nothing to something, finally comprehended the martial arts that Lin Ling was currently learning. Now Lin Ling had the human monarch's flame. However, he had stopped cultivating this talent after comprehending it to a certain extent. The Thunderlock true body had also been cultivated to the 5th level. As for the other divine abilities, such as the Bodhi Testimony divine technique, Lin Ling had cultivated them to their limits. Apart from slowly increasing Lin Ling's soul force, this divine technique wasn't of much help to him. The only things that Lin Ling was still cultivating and comprehending were the primal chaos divine technique, the cardinal grand Brahma punishment art, and the Panga strike. This was because these 3 techniques were the most ancient techniques, and the martial arts that he had learned before could only dominate the deity realm. Bang! 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 In Lin Ling's dantian, rumbling sounds were constantly heard. After his foundation of martial arts and cultivation resources had met the requirements, his first dantian had finally entered the late-stage low god realm. The divine energy in his dantian was surging, as though it had the power to split the heavens and earth. This kid has broken through. Whitewater Pure Maiden, who was standing on the huge statue behind Lin Ling, also sensed the changes in Lin Ling. Of course, she was only a little surprised. With her experience, she had met countless late-stage low gods in her life. Boom, boom, boom. But at this moment, another formless divine aura filled the air. Another breakthrough. Whitewater Pure Maiden thought that her eyes were playing tricks on her, because she had just sensed that Lin Ling had broken through. How could he have broken through again? This must be fake. How can a person break through so many times? Whitewater Pure Maiden shook her head. But at this time, another wave of energy came. Divine energy and divine aura filled the air like a tidal wave. Another breakthrough. This time, Whitewater Pure Maiden no longer thought that her eyes were playing tricks on her. Boom, boom, boom. But the divine energy and divine aura seemed to have opened the floodgates. Waves after waves of energy came from it, as though it was breaking through again and again. Heavens! Whitewater Pure Maiden couldn't be bothered with her cultivation anymore. Her eyes were fixed on Lin Ling's body, and she was completely dumbfounded. She could be considered an ancient great god in the era of gods. She had seen a lot of things, but this was the first time she had seen such a strange thing. Could it be that there were 6 or 7 gods hiding in that kid's body? Or did that kid have several Dantians? But she had heard of people with 3 Dantians. Having more than 3 Dantians was rare even in the era of gods. Moreover, even if there were, it was just a kind of divine ability, and not a real multi-Dantian cultivation. Because too many Dantians would go against heaven's harmony. While cultivating, there would also be conflicts. The most basic thing was that when refining treasures, the various Dantians would compete for spiritual energy. A moment of carelessness, and this would lead to chi deviation. How could she know that Lin Ling's chaos divine formula did not have this kind of flaw at all? What a strange kid! Whitewater Pure Maiden discovered that this ant was not as weak as he appeared on the surface. After this ant broke through, she would interrogate him properly. If he dared not to fight, then she would kill him. Whitewater Pure Maiden, as the progenitor of the breakage divine soil, was in existence akin to an overlord. At this moment, Lin Ling did not know that Whitewater Pure Maiden was watching him break through. Of course, if possible, Lin Ling did not want to expose his cultivation process, but he had no other choice. As Lin Ling continued to break through, the amount of spiritual liquid he was sitting cross-legged on decreased. Ka. At the same time, endless white lightning raged around Lin Ling's body. It was majestic, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It turned into a mysterious thunder god with a pair of thunderous wings and a body of lightning. This thunder god's long hair draped over his shoulders, fluttering in the wind. There was a mysterious eye patch over his eyes. He spread his arms and floated behind Lin Ling, giving others the feeling that he was the ruler of the world, omnipotent and omnipotent. A mid-god divine fetus. Whitewater Pure Maiden spoke again. Clearly, she had also noticed that Lin Ling's talent had broken through. His talent is not bad. With a mid-god divine fetus in his body, unless his perception and luck are too poor, it shouldn't be difficult for him to break through to the mid-god realm. However, it's hard to find the treasures needed to break through in the current void. It's possible to find them in the shattered divine world. Of course, if you can go to the most ancient chaos world, then you'll break through. Breaking through to the mid-god realm is a matter of certainty. Whitewater Pure Maiden said indifferently. She naturally knew that Lin Ling could break through, because of her pure heavenly spiritual comet liquid. So, tell me the cultivation method you used to enter the deity realm and deity realm. The pure white maiden's words seemed casual, but they carried an unquestionable majesty. It was as if Lin Ling would definitely answer if she asked. She even personally asked Lin Ling. This was a reward for Lin Ling, a blessing for Lin Ling. Of course, with her beauty, strength and status, she indeed had the qualifications. Haha. However, Lin Ling laughed. In terms of status, beauty and strength, the ancient deities Lin Ling knew were even more ancient than the pure white maiden. For example, the Eastern Sea Dragon King he met in the 8 Gods Celestial Palace. This ancient deity surpassed the pure white maiden in every aspect, except for beauty. Moreover, Lin Ling was no longer the carefree and unruly youth of the past. Beauty to him was just a beautiful flower at some point in time. He only admired it. How could his heart be moved? What are you laughing at? Seeing Lin Ling remain silent, the pure white maiden frowned. She did not know why, but she felt that Lin Ling was looking at her with a mocking gaze. A little god of this era actually had the nerve to laugh at her? If you don't speak, you have to bear the consequences. The pure white maiden was not a person who liked to be long-winded. She directly stated their relationship. Don't tell me you still want to use force? Although it is indeed difficult for me to resist with your strength, unfortunately, even if I stand still, I think you won't dare to touch me, Lin Ling said. Ha ha ha. Hearing Lin Ling's words, the pure white maiden couldn't help but laugh. Although it was a bold and unrestrained laughter, it had the beauty of a heroine. In this aspect, the Lily Empress of the past could not compare to her, and neither could Longnyang. He had only glanced at the envelope, and did not see the words written by the Sky River God. It seemed that the Sky River God was also cunning. He knew that it would be difficult to see him, so he used his daughter to play the friendship card and fight for him, to let him go. The River God? What? Servant? When did I become your servant? Hearing this, Whitewater Pure Maiden became even angrier. Not my servant. You're not qualified to be my servant. Because what do I want you for? Lin Ling corrected her. You. Whitewater Pure Maiden was so angry that her breasts trembled. Then, she pounced on Lin Ling, and reached out with her jade-like hand. The sound of a raging river could be heard. She was so angry that she almost lost her mind. Asking her to be a servant was a great humiliation to her. But who would have thought that this arrogant brat would say no with a disdainful face? Damn it! You want to kill me? Seeing Whitewater Pure Maiden's sudden attack, Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. Subconsciously, he unleashed a powerful force and punched out. Boom! Although he did not have the third stage talent fusion, the current Lin Ling was no longer the same as before. This punch actually knocked Whitewater Pure Maiden's hand askew. However, Whitewater Pure Maiden was still an intermediate celestial. No matter how strong Lin Ling was, there was still an insurmountable gap between them. Therefore, Whitewater Pure Maiden's arm trembled. A powerful force gushed out from her body and grabbed at Lin Ling again. The speed of this attack increased by a few notches. It was not what Lin Ling could block at all. By the time Lin Ling reacted, his neck was already grabbed by a jade-like hand. However, Lin Ling was not afraid in the slightest. He looked at Whitewater Pure Maiden coldly and said, You dare to go against father's words? Or are you, Whitewater Pure Maiden, an ungrateful person? I saved you, but you came to kill me instead. Whitewater Pure Maiden could not refute these words. She naturally knew that Lin Ling saved her. However, Lin Ling did not give her face too much. Forget being disrespectful to her. He even dared to make her a servant. She could not swallow this insult. However, thinking of her father whose life and death were unknown, and thinking of her father's instructions, she finally gritted her teeth and let go of Lin Ling. While Lin Ling stroked his neck, his expression icy cold. Alright, although I saved you, I also took your clear water heavenly spirit comet elixir. Therefore, you don't have to thank me. Or even now. Goodbye. Although Lin Ling knew that Whitewater Pure Maiden would not kill him, Lin Ling still felt uncomfortable coming into contact with this powerful mid-god. Therefore, he did not plan on staying any longer. Then what about me? Seeing Lin Ling turn around and leave, Whitewater Pure Maiden suddenly said, How would I know? Go wherever you want to cool off. Lin Ling replied, You. Even though Xian Wuba wasn't from one of the 10 orthodoxies, he quickly bowed because a god at the level of a progenitor could easily kill him with a single finger. The people from the Dragon Valley were also shocked, but soon their faces were filled with worry. Even though Lin Ling had saved the primogenitor, it was obviously not a good thing. The godly Broken Lands primogenitor would definitely help his own people, and he might even attack Lin Ling immediately. As soon as this concern arose, the Maha-Orthodoxy pointed at Lin Ling and said, Lord Primogenitor, he's Lei Gong, one of the 4 great gods of the 9 continents void. He knows about the stone tablet where the will of the world resides. That shameless bastard. Even though the dragon god had already guessed it, he was still furious. After all, Lin Ling had saved the primogenitor, but these guys turned their backs on him. Of course, the dragon god also knew that a great battle was inevitable. The dragon god immediately sent a telepathic message. Radiant Golden Dragon, I'm afraid we can't avoid a great battle. When the battle begins, we must protect Lin Ling, and leave no matter what. Yes, Lord Dragon God. The Radiant Golden Dragon replied solemnly. Oh, so you're one of the 4 great gods, Lei Gong. But do you know about the stone tablet where the will of the world resides? At this moment, the White Maiden glanced at Lin Ling. She didn't expect this arrogant kid to have such a strong background. That stone tablet was destroyed. I didn't know. The will of the world was of great importance. And Lin Ling didn't want to admit anything. He's talking nonsense. We saw him steal the stone tablet with our own eyes. Primogenitor, don't believe him. Seeing that the primogenitor had personally asked, the Maha-Orthodoxy and the others were laughing in their hearts. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you're going to die this time. Are they telling the truth? The White Maiden asked Lin Ling again. However, Lin Ling was clearly impatient and said coldly, as a servant, don't you think you're talking too much? You. The White Maiden didn't expect Lin Ling to suddenly say that. Servant? Of course, the Maha-Orthodoxy and the others understood. They were stunned for a moment, then almost burst out laughing. This Lei Gong Lin Ling was crazy, calling the primogenitor a servant. Not to mention the current era. Even in the age of Pantheon, no one dared to. They were not ordinary people. They knew the primogenitor's background. She was the daughter of the Sky River Water God. What? You don't want to be my servant? That's great. I'm happy to have some peace. At this time, Lin Ling spoke again, looking very dissatisfied, and walked towards the Dragon Valley. The White Maiden gritted her teeth. This guy must be doing it on purpose. He's trying to embarrass me in front of everyone. But if this guy left just like that, then wouldn't she be unable to fulfill her father's orders? Wait for me. I'm willing to be your servant. Thinking of this, the White Maiden hurriedly chased after Lin Ling. Servant. The orthodoxies were stunned. Then, a series of loud bangs sounded, and one by one, they fell from the sky. Servant. Their primogenitor actually became Lei Gong Lin Ling's servant. This must be a joke. This Lord Dragon God, did I hear wrongly? This powerful primogenitor became Lin Ling's servant? The radiant golden dragon's eyes twitched violently. I also want to know if I heard wrongly. The dragon god's mouth twitched. Then he saw Lin Ling walking towards him. He suddenly smiled bitterly. He did not understand what Lin Ling did to the primogenitor. Let's go. Lin Ling did not explain anything. He planned to leave the Cataclysm Holy Land after saying that. Moreover, Lin Ling did not say anything to the White Maiden, but the latter gritted her teeth and continued to follow Lin Ling. She knew that if she did not follow Lin Ling, she would not be able to get any news about her father. Looking at the departing Lin Ling, the orthodoxies were still dumbfounded. Suddenly the Maha-Orthodoxy shouted, Primogenitor, where are you going? The White Maiden pondered for a moment, then finally said coldly, I'm now Lei Gong Lin Ling's servant. I'll go wherever he goes. This time, she personally replied to the orthodoxies. Bang bang bang. Those orthodoxies who had just gotten up fell to the ground again. She was really a servant. 100,000 whys floated in their minds. Chapter 45-39. They couldn't understand, they really couldn't understand. Although they were confused, they didn't dare to ask. They could only watch as the primogenitor gradually disappeared from their sight. At this time, Lin Ling led everyone away from the Broken Realm Holy Land. Following the void, they walked step by step in the direction of the Kai Yuan River. Behind Lin Ling, the dragon race members didn't dare to speak. They were very afraid of Whitewater Pure Maiden. Whitewater Pure Maiden didn't speak either. She stared at Lin Ling indifferently. Her opinion of Lin Ling had changed slightly, because she didn't expect Lin Ling to have such ability. He wasn't a nobody in the void. After all, she had seen that even the dragon race seemed to be very friendly to Lin Ling. Whitewater Pure Maiden naturally knew about the dragon race. They were a branch of the ancient dragon race. Although they couldn't compare to the ancient dragon god, they weren't weak either. Generally speaking, they rarely submitted to others, let alone a young and inexperienced dragon god. Fuck this junior. Lord Dragon God, this mission is complete. If you want to go to the 8 gods' heavenly palace soon, I will send someone to inform you. The Kai Yuan River began to appear in front of them. Lin Ling stopped and looked at the old man behind him. Good. The dragon god smiled and nodded. Then I'll take my leave first. Thank you for your help this time. If there's anything you need help with in the future, just say it. Lin Ling said again. No need. No need to be so polite with one of us. The dragon god waved his hand and said. After exchanging a few pleasantries with Lin Ling, he led the dragons and flew towards the Kai Yuan River. After the dragon race left, Lin Ling looked at Whitewater Pure Maiden and said, I know you're following me. First, you have to complete your father's orders. Second, you want to know your father's whereabouts. Then I can tell you here. If you perform well, I might tell you the whereabouts of the Sky River Water God. I hope you can do as you say. Whitewater Pure Maiden also nodded. She didn't seem as arrogant as before, but Lin Ling could still sense that this restraint was only because of her father's face. However, Lin Ling didn't mind and continued. But if you want to follow me, there's a condition. You're not allowed to question or investigate anything about me. If I find out that you've violated this condition, then you'll leave immediately, and you'll never see your father again in this lifetime. Hearing this, Whitewater Pure Maiden's heart trembled. Originally, she disapproved of Lin Ling's words, because she felt that even if she secretly investigated, with Lin Ling's strength, he might not be able to find out. But she didn't expect that Lin Ling would be so decisive. As long as he found the slightest clue, he immediately broke off all relations with her. This also meant that if they wanted to investigate Lin Ling, it would be very risky. For the sake of her father, she obviously had to endure this humiliation again. However, through Lin Ling's words, she also knew that Lin Ling indeed knew her father's whereabouts. Okay, let's go to the bank of the Kaiyuan River. You'll stand guard for me from now on. Lin Ling said again. He planned to give Sima Ruochan's head to the Xianyuan treasure book, and he had also warned Whitewater Pure Maiden. So he wasn't afraid of her knowing the secret of the prison. Moreover, this time was also to test Whitewater Pure Maiden. If she couldn't do as she said, then Lin Ling wouldn't dare to keep such a person. The two of them quickly arrived at the bank of the Kaiyuan River, and Lin Ling took out the stone tablet. In the beginning, Whitewater Pure Maiden had a disdainful expression, thinking that Lin Ling was afraid of some secret being known by her. However, she came from the era of the gods, so there was nothing she didn't know. But when Lin Ling took out the stone pillar of the square prison, Whitewater Pure Maiden was clearly stunned. What is this? Whitewater Pure Maiden had never seen such a treasure. It's best not to ask what you shouldn't ask. Lin Ling didn't even look at her. And with that, he entered the stone pillar. Whitewater Pure Maiden clenched her teeth. What a cocky brat. But soon, she was attracted by the stone pillar of the square prison. What kind of treasure was this? Why hadn't she seen it before? Moreover, it didn't have any power feedback, which was extremely rare. She couldn't help but want to go closer to investigate. But then she remembered Lin Ling's warning. This guy is doing it on purpose. He's testing me. I can't be fooled. Whitewater Pure Maiden suddenly thought of something, sneered and ignored it. She guessed that Lin Ling must be deliberately baiting her. And this stone pillar might actually have nothing. Brat, I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice. You want to scheme against me? Dream on. After sneering, Whitewater Pure Maiden sat down cross-legged and didn't look at the stone pillar anymore. Unfortunately, she didn't know that Lin Ling didn't have time to test her. Inside the stone pillar was the square prison, and even her father was inside. At this moment, Lin Ling entered the prison and went straight to the Xianyuan treasure book first. My lord. Seeing Lin Ling coming, the Xianyuan treasure book was obviously a little excited. Lin Ling didn't say much, and threw Sima Ruochan's head into the prison cell. After the Xianyuan treasure book caught the head, his body trembled, and then his eyes became wet. Thank you, my lord. Thank you. The Xianyuan treasure book kept kowtowing to Lin Ling, very grateful. No need. Tell me the map of the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Lin Ling said. Okay. Chapter 4540. Lin Ling's purpose for coming here was precisely for that letter. With this letter, Whitewater Pure Maiden would not dare to act recklessly. After that, Lin Ling left the prison and came to the outside world. The first thing he saw was the White Maiden practicing in the distance. She did not seem to care about the square prison at all. This woman is not that stupid after all. Lin Ling smiled. He knew that the White Maiden did not check the prison at all, and she did not dare to do so. Catch. Lin Ling then threw the letter from the Sky River Water God to her. The White Maiden took it and read it. Her expression changed drastically. And the way she looked at Lin Ling changed too. At first, she was half confident that Lin Ling knew her father. But now, she was 100% sure. Because the letter was left by her father. And he emphasized that she must not offend Lin Ling. Okay, let's cross the river. Lin Ling did not care what the White Maiden was thinking. He strode toward the Kaiyuan River. The White Maiden looked at Lin Ling with a complicated expression, and quickly followed him. With their strength, crossing the Kaiyuan River was undoubtedly easy. So during this process, Lin Ling once again entered a state of cultivation. He took out an ancient book and read it carefully. This was the clone of the true body. It came from Sima Ruochen. When Sima Ruochen created countless clones, even Lin Ling was shocked by his technique. One should know that Lin Ling had cultivated many cloning techniques in his life, and had seen many of them. However, this was the first time he had seen someone like Sima Ruochen, who could even clone with the strength of a god. Aside from the fact that his talent was not strong, his divine essence and divine power were both present. So after killing Sima Ruochen, Lin Ling focused on finding such techniques. Clone of the true body. Beside him, the White Maiden glanced at the book in Lin Ling's hand, then smiled and said, "This clone technique is the strongest. It can split almost 90% of the master's strength, and the number is endless. Lei Gong Lin Ling, where did you get this book? Do you need me to help you cultivate it? Do you want to refine it? There's no need. It's just an avatar of the true body. What's so difficult about cultivating it?" Lin Ling shook his head. For Lei Gong Lin Ling, to be able to become the youngest god in the 9 prefectures void, his comprehension must be extraordinary. I estimate that when we walk out of this Kaiyuan River, Lei Gong Lin Ling will definitely be able to cultivate his first clone. Being rejected by Lin Ling, Whitewater Pure Maiden did not mind. Although her words seemed to be flattery, in fact there was a trace of disdain. She did not think that Lin Ling would fail in his cultivation. Although the avatar of the true body seemed powerful, there were conditions to cultivate it. Soul force, divine energy, physical strength, and comprehension of the great Tao. None of these could be lacking. In fact, this divine ability wasn't the rarest in the age of the gods. Many gods had books about it, but very few could cultivate more than 10 clones. Even Bai Shui Su had cultivated it before, but she could only cultivate 3 clones. It wasn't very helpful, and in the end, Bai Shui Su gave it to her. She abandoned it. As for Lin Ling, wanting to cultivate his first clone in such a short period of time, after leaving the Kaiyuan River, was undoubtedly very difficult. Lin Ling did not pay attention to her. He closed his eyes and walked forward. At the same time, he began to cultivate his avatar of the true body. In fact, Lin Ling was quite confident in cultivating this divine ability. This was because when he entered the prison, he had personally asked the Xianyuan treasure book how to cultivate it. In order to repay Lin Ling, the Xianyuan treasure book told him everything it knew. Therefore, there was no need to comprehend this divine ability. The only thing missing was whether or not he had the qualifications to cultivate it. However, Lin Ling's soul force, divine energy, and physical strength had all reached the standard. He could cultivate the most basic 3,000 clones. Just like this, Lin Ling continued to comprehend as he walked. His mind was constantly practicing, and he gradually became more familiar with this avatar of the true body. Time quietly passed. With Pure White Maiden by his side, Lin Ling did not have to worry about danger. When the endless void began to appear in front of him, the void of the 9 continents was already in sight. At this time, Lin Ling opened his eyes. "Lei Gong Lin Ling, how's your cultivation?" Pure White Maiden immediately asked when she saw Lin Ling exit his cultivation state. "Esoso." Lin Ling smiled and strode forward. "Esoso. Thunderlord Lin Ling, you don't have to worry too much about it. This external body incarnation is one of the most ancient physical body divine abilities. It's normal for someone to not be able to learn it in such a short time. You should know that I've also cultivated it before. It took me 300 years to learn it. I only managed to cultivate 3 clones. I couldn't comprehend the 4th, even if I went into seclusion for 100 years. My luck was pretty good. As far as I know, Some gods cultivated for 1,000 years, and only managed to cultivate a single clone. Pure White Maiden laughed when she saw Lin Ling leave. She guessed that Lin Ling must have failed in his cultivation. Otherwise, why would he leave so quickly? Obviously, he felt embarrassed. This made her feel a sense of satisfaction. This arrogant brat had finally kicked an iron plate. However, Lin Ling ignored her and walked faster and faster. He turned into a rainbow and wanted to rush out of the Kaiyuan River. His heart of martial arts is not solid enough. He can't bear such a small setback. Alas, it seems that I overestimated him. Pure White Maiden could understand Lin Ling's feelings. She knew that Lin Ling had failed in his comprehension, so he was angry from embarrassment. Roar! But at this time, countless water dragons rushed out from the river and intertwined with each other. They surrounded Lin Ling and ruthlessly strangled him. Legong Lin Ling. Even pure Maiden Whitewater couldn't react to this sudden change. She cursed inwardly. Thunder Lord Lin Ling had failed in his cultivation, and his actions had become much more reckless. He had completely forgotten that they were still above the Kaiyuan River. The Kaiyuan River was still dangerous, and if they weren't careful, they could even kill Lin Ling. Roar! However, when she wanted to help, she was still too late. Countless water dragons drowned Lin Ling and completely strangled him. No! Pure White Maiden roared angrily. Her entire person was stunned above the Kaiyuan River, as if she had lost her soul. She had finally found some news of her father. However, the person who knew her father's whereabouts had died before her eyes just like that. This meant that wanting to know her father's whereabouts was probably harder than ascending to heaven. Thinking of this, she was both excited and disappointed. Ferocious divine essence erupted, blowing up all the nearby river water. However, the dead Lin Ling did not appear again. Legong Lin Ling, you can't die, you trash. Where is my father? Where is my father? Staring at the river water that was constantly forming whirlpools, Pure White Maiden's face was full of disappointment and anger. You're the trash. Suddenly, a voice came from behind, making Pure White Maiden look back. Then, she was surprised to discover a figure slowly walking over from behind. Who could it be if not Lin Ling? Why aren't you dead? I clearly saw you die before. This time, Pure White Maiden was quite shocked. She believed in her eyesight. The Lin Ling from before was indeed dead. But why did another Lin Ling appear? Chapter 45-41. Avatars of the True Body. In the past, Pure White Maiden cultivated for 300 years, and only managed to cultivate 3 avatars. However, Lin Ling only cultivated for a single day, and he managed to cultivate 1 avatar. Unless someone instructs him on how to cultivate, and he reaches the standard of cultivation, his comprehension ability is incomparably terrifying. Staring at the approaching Lin Ling, Pure White Maiden's eyes continued to flicker. At this moment, she once again felt the mysteriousness of Lin Ling. One had to know that avatars of the true body were very useful in the ancient era. Many ancient great gods knew how to use these avatars to fight their enemies. Outside of a few limited abilities, this type of ability was truly invincible. This was why in the era of gods, countless gods yearned for this ability. Unfortunately, not many people were able to cultivate it successfully. Because of this avatar, Pure White Maiden didn't distinguish the real from the fake. This was because unless one paid close attention, it was very difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. You've succeeded. I underestimated you a bit. To be able to cultivate an avatar in such a short period of time, you're not simple. Pure White Maiden said to Lin Ling. Lin Ling continued to walk forward and shook his head with a smile. It's not an avatar. Behind him, another avatar immediately walked out. This avatar looked exactly the same as Lin Ling, but its clothes were different. It wore a golden robe with golden flames burning on its shoulders. Fellow Taoist, as for the golden-robed Lin Ling who walked out, he also smiled and bowed towards Lin Ling. Fellow Taoist, Lin Ling also bowed. This was the power of avatars of the true body. These avatars had their own thoughts, just like a Tao tree blooming and bearing fruit. In fact, there were many types of avatars of the true body. Lin Ling cultivated the nascent soul Tao physique. If a Tao tree grew, it would take 3,000 years to sprout, 3,000 years to bloom, and 3,000 years to bear fruit. And now, Lin Ling had cultivated to the realm of sprouting in 3,000 years. Of course, if it wasn't for the Xianyuan treasure book's reminder, Lin Ling wouldn't have been able to succeed so quickly. Two avatars. Staring at the two Lin Ling, Pure White Maiden's eyes became more focused. She had to admit that she was inferior to him in terms of avatars of the true body, although these avatars only had 90% of Lin Ling's strength. Because they had their own thoughts, their combat strength was not weak. They were much more powerful than the avatars she encountered in the past. Pure White Maiden even knew that the strongest avatars of the true body could cultivate on their own. And this was the terrifying part of them. Think about it. The true bodies of the true body, to cultivate of the true body to grow. The Xianyuan book didn't. Therefore, Lin Ling's goal was to fight with the world consciousness until the day he became the most ancient giant beast in the primordial era. Follow me. Lin Ling walked along the void. Pure White Maiden, who was behind him, glanced at the void and nodded slightly. She was naturally familiar with the void of the 9 prefectures. When she was in the godly land of destruction all those years ago, she had always paid attention to the void of the 9 prefectures. Unfortunately, the void of the 9 prefectures was very weak at that time. Besides the 4 great gods, no one else was worth mentioning. Even the 4 great gods were only SOO. However, now, the void of the 9 continents had matured with countless gods. There were also many gods as powerful as orthodoxies. At some point in time, it was not much weaker than the broken divine land. This ancient void rose up after the god world was shattered. However, after its rise, it became unstoppable. Pure White Maiden thought. She looked at the man in front of her. She was very clear that among the rising stars of the 9 continents, there was no one more terrifying than this man. Chapter 45-42. Lin Ling, I think you should hand over the key to the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace, and let everyone enter the 8 gods' heavenly palace together. But at this moment, the space in front of him turned illusory, and a large number of experts appeared before him. Spirit Nation experts. There were about 50 of them, and 40% of them had the strength of a god, while 60% had the strength of a god. Moreover, these experts with the strength of a god were only slightly weaker than the Kirishin. Some of them were even weaker than the Kirishin. How much weaker? And the one leading them was Lord Ning. The Spirit Nation's method of nurturing gods is too powerful. Staring at the group of experts in front of him, Lin Ling did not panic, but sighed inwardly. Now there were countless experts in the Lei Gong Hall. Other than Grandpa Treasure God, there was also the Giant Tortoise, Emperor God Zhang Gang, Young Qilin, Big Brother, Young Yao Dreamflow, and other gods. Even though their growth was fast, they could not compare to the Spirit Nation. Lin Ling, I heard that you returned from the godly land of the Broken Realm, and found the key to the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Therefore, I hope you will hand it over. Of course, our Spirit Nation will not take it for ourselves, but will share it with all of you. Lord Ning stared at Lin Ling and said again. His expression looked calm, but his heart was shocked because he realized that Lin Ling had reached the late-stage lower god realm. One must know that in the ear-holding ox cave not long ago, Lin Ling was only a mid-stage lower god. It seemed that any logic was useless against Lin Ling. Moreover, after Lin Ling's strength increased, although he suppressed it well, and no one could see how strong he was, Lord Ning still felt a sense of pressure. It was as if the current Lin Ling was not much weaker than him, and was the #1 expert in the Lei Gong Hall, on the same level as Nanwufinyu Treasure God. How do you know that I have the key to the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace? Lin Ling glanced at the crowd and said indifferently, How dare you speak to Lord Ning like that? Slap him. Suddenly, an angry roar came from behind Lord Ning. The one who spoke was a domineering young man. He was 2 meters tall, and had long hair like lightning. His upper body was bare, but there were complicated runes on it. His strength was at the late-stage lower god realm. Lin Ling did not recognize this person. He should be a god that the Spirit Nation had recently nurtured. Hee. Lin Ling smiled. He ignored the young. What an arrogant Lei Gong Lin. The young man's eyes narrowed while the gods by his side narrowed their eyes as well. And then their auras surged out like bearing fangs and brandishing claws. They had naturally heard of Thunder Lord Lin Ling's name. But they were gods of Ling Kingdom, and felt that Lin Ling was only SO. Of Lin Ling's was king was of the Ling. This heavenly of the divine palace of the heavens, heavenly divine of the gods of God realm. Lord Ning, you are a big shot of the spirit nation, aren't you? How can you allow your subordinate to speak so rudely? Lin Ling finally spoke at this moment. But Lord Ning still had a smile on his face. He faintly looked at Lin Ling, as if he wanted to know what sort of game Lin Ling was playing. However, he was about to be disappointed. The feeling the youth in front of him gave him was still as calm and confident as before. Although Lin Ling had reached the late-stage lower god realm, they had more gods on their side. Lord Ning had even personally come. Could Lin Ling stop them all by himself? No, there were two of them. However, the mysterious person behind Lin Ling was on par with Lin Ling in terms of strength. That was all there was to it. Ha ha ha. As expected of one of the four great gods, Lei Gong. Lei Gong is even more impressive than Lei Gong in the past. Lord Ning put away his thoughts and laughed loudly, slapped the person who spoke. Lin Ling's strength may not be as strong as mine, but he is still one of the 9 prefectures' 4 great deities. He called upon the 10,000 realms and unified the 9 prefectures. Do you think you are qualified to speak to him? My lord. The face of the young man who was reprimanded instantly changed. Was he going to slap him? He was a late-stage lower god and so was Lin Ling. What qualifications did Lin Ling have to be higher than him? Slap him. Lord Ning did not waste any more words. His laughter turned cold. All right. The young man gritted his teeth and slapped himself a few times. After that, he looked at Lin Ling with bloodshot eyes. If looks could kill, Lin Ling would have been chopped into 1,000 pieces. Obviously, he was not convinced. You think you are qualified to speak to me with your status? No wonder you are just cannon fodder of the spirit nation, and can't be a commander. Your intelligence needs to be recharged. Lin Ling looked at the young man mockingly and shook his head. He looked at Lord Ning and said, Lord Ning, how did you know that I have the key to the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace? I remember that not many people know of this secret. Do you want to know? Lord Ning looked at Lin Ling and said, as long as you share the key with us, I will tell you. The 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace hid a new world will host body. The great gods of the spirit nation naturally wanted to know. Haha, forget it if you don't want to say. Anyway, I was just casually asking. Hearing this, Lin Ling shrugged his shoulders. There is no harm in telling you. Lord Ning did not hide anything. The person who told us this information is Taoist of many treasures. It's him. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He had been curious about who had exposed the secret. The people who knew this secret were from the Great Hall of Lei Gong and the Dragon Race. The people from the Great Hall of Lei Gong would definitely not say, so he thought it was the Dragon Race. Now, it seemed that he had wronged the Dragon Race. However, for Taoist of many treasures to know such a secret, this old man was too powerful. Not long ago, our great gods of the spirit nation found Taoist of many treasures. After a discussion, Taoist of many treasures calculated it. Lord Ning said, thank you. Lin Ling nodded and remembered this debt. This Taoist of many treasures dared to trick him, Lin Ling. He then looked at Lord Ning and said, this key was obtained by me with great difficulty. If you say you want to share it, then share it. Isn't this too cheap? Lin Ling, treasure god Nanwufing you, that madman is not here. You dare to bargain with me? Lord Ning smiled, but his smile was filled with majesty. That's right. However, Lin Ling nodded without the slightest fear. This caused Lord Ning to look deeply at Lin Ling, his heart filled with emotion. Back in Spirit Light City, Lin Ling had been nothing more than a trial challenger. At that time, he had seen how outstanding Lin Ling was, and his heart had been moved. He had wanted to recruit Lin Ling, but in the end he had failed. In the following days, he watched Lin Ling grow continuously. After that, the chaos on the island of the Spirit Nation, and then the battle of the gods in the Erox Cave. Lin Ling's talent was outstanding, and he not only led the Great Hall of Lei Gong to become famous, but also became an existence that the gods could not underestimate. And now, Lin Ling had the qualifications to bargain with him. Chapter 45-43. In their opinion, Lord Ning spoiled Lin Ling too much. That was why he was so easy to talk to. Alright, I can use treasures to exchange for it. Tell me, what treasures do you want? At this moment, Lord Ning spoke again. His words made the gods even more indignant. I don't lack treasures for the time being. Furthermore, I don't think you can afford the treasures I want. Lin Ling shook his head. He needed treasures to open his 8th dantian. However, it was obvious that the spirit nation couldn't afford such treasures. I want Lily Empress as an exchange. How about that? Lin Ling said again. Lily Empress? Lord Ning's expression didn't change. He smiled and said, Didn't you kill her? Lord Ning, Lily Empress isn't dead. I know that too. Therefore, let's be frank. Lin Ling smiled. His words made Lord Ning's eyes narrow. Lily Empress wasn't dead. Not many people knew about this secret. How did Lin Ling know? Suddenly, a chill rose in his heart. The spirit nation had been secretly controlling Lin Ling. They knew Lin Ling's every move. However, he didn't expect that Lin Ling was also controlling the spirit nation's every move. How terrifying! Lord Ning felt a sense of terror rise in his heart. It was as if his entire body had been seen through by someone. Furthermore, the person who saw through him was a rising star. Since we're being frank, I'll be frank too. Lily Empress isn't dead. She was resurrected by the Almighty. If you want her, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. Because other than the Almighty of the Spirit Nation, I don't know where Lily Empress is, and how she is now. Lord Ning said lightly. I guess you don't know either. How about this? Help me tell her that I, Lin Ling, am also waiting for her. I hope that she can come and see me within 3 years. I know that she's still alive. However, she must kill me in this lifetime. Lin Ling said to Lord Ning. 3 years. All right, I will pass on your message. However, speaking of 3 years, Lin Ling, there is something I should tell you. Within 3 years, there will definitely be experts from the Chaos Realm coming here. This is what the great god of the Spirit Nation told me. Furthermore, I do not know what their intentions are, but I can. I'm sure one of their targets is you. Lord Ning suddenly said. His words caused Lin Ling to frown. Although he had already guessed that there would be powerhouses coming from the Chaos Realm, in the end this was only a guess. Thank you for the reminder, but I think the great god of Spirit Nation is also one of the targets of the Chaos Realm. Lin Ling said with a smile. These seemingly casual words caused Lord Ning's heart to tremble once more. He discovered that nothing could be hidden from Lin Ling. Lin Ling was indeed a man who would become a king or a god. It's a pity that you did not bring Lily Empress here. Therefore, if you want to obtain the key to the 8th level, you will need to fulfill another condition. How about this? You let one of your people fight with me. If I lose, we will share the key. How about that? Lin Ling proposed after pondering for a moment. All right. Lord Ning agreed immediately. If Lin Ling lost, he would hand over the key. If Lin Ling won, he would not ask for anything. This proposal was very fair. He turned around and looked at the gods behind him. The gods wanted to give it a try. All of them wanted to fight with Lei Gong Lin Ling and shake the Spirit Nation and the void of the 9 continents. Unfortunately, they also knew that this opportunity would depend on Lord Ning's decision. Yin Xuanyang, you're up. Lord Ning swept his gaze across and finally made a decision. The eyes of the gods who were called out lit up instantly. As for the other gods, they looked regretful, as if they had missed out on a great opportunity. However, the one to fight was Yin Xuanyang. They were convinced because this person's strength was monstrous. He was the strongest god among them, just below Lord Ning. As for the god named Yin Xuanyang, she was a woman. She wore a long robe of the Spirit Nation and had a cold expression. When she walked out, she looked at Lin Ling calmly. There was not a trace of contempt in her eyes. It could be seen that this person did not become a god only by luck. Yin Xuanyang greets Lei Gong. The woman cupped her hands slightly at Lin Ling. Thank you for letting me win. Since the other party was so polite, Lin Ling did not neglect her. The main reason was that he could sense that this woman was not weak. She was probably not much weaker than the Kirushin, The only flaw was that she was too young. Can we begin? Let's begin. The two of them exchanged a few words, and then activated their divine origin. On the other hand, Lin Ling did not use his innate talent. He only activated his divine origin. However, it was still shocking because Lin Ling's divine origin was too dense. He was like an ancient god. On the other hand, Yan Xuanyang's divine origin was obviously not as strong as Lin Ling's. However, her talent was terrifying. She was a first-tier intermediate god. This was the reason why she could laugh at the gods. Lei Gong Lin Ling, because you are strong, I will not hold back. If I have offended you, please forgive me. Yan Xuanyang opened her hands, and a thunder swallow formed by thunder appeared behind her. The deafening sound of thunder was also heard. Looking at her arms, they were now covered in snakes of electricity. They were so powerful that even the void was torn apart. 110,000 divine points. And an intermediate god's divine embryo. She is indeed not simple. Lin Ling nodded. Whoosh. Yan Xuanyang did not say anything else. She shot towards Lin Ling. Her hands were like knives, carrying lightning as they slashed towards Lin Ling. The terrifying thing was that her speed had reached 800,000 worlds. However, she did not know that Lin Ling's speed had reached 1,000,000 worlds speed even without using his innate talent. Bang! Ferocious thunder wings appeared behind Lin Ling's back. He moved his feet and dodged Yan Xuanyang's attack. Rumble! As soon as he disappeared, the void was slashed open by Yan Xuanyang. A huge crack appeared and unleashed an endless suction force, sucking in everything in the distance. Of course, this did not affect the gods. They were still staring at Lin Ling. What a fast speed. I'm afraid it is not slower than 800,000 world speed. I wonder if he has reached his limit. If he hasn't, then he is truly terrifying. The deities could only mutter to themselves, and their contempt for Lin Ling also lessened by a notch. 3 swallows opened the way. However, after Yan Xuanyang missed her attack, she caught up with Lin Ling. She crossed her arms and slashed towards Lin Ling again. Bang! Lin Ling threw out a punch to counter the intersecting slash. After the collision, a terrifying shockwave burst out. After the collision, Yan Xuanyang was shocked by the density of Lin Ling's divine energy. She did not know if Lin Ling had used his full strength. However, as the most dazzling god, her strength was not to be underestimated. After her attack failed, she shouted angrily, "Virgin Sparrow! Go!" Lightning suddenly burst out from her crossed arms and wreaked havoc in the void. Crackle! The void turned into a pool of lightning. Lin Ling, who was in the pool of lightning, showed a painful expression. Then everything was destroyed. Dead. Chapter 45-44. Oh no! Yan Xuanyang's pupils constricted. He could not react in time, and was hit by Lin Ling's finger. Bang! 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 After a series of explosions, Yan Xuanyang, who was hit by Lin Ling's finger, turned into ashes and scattered with the wind. How could he be so powerful? Didn't Lin Ling die earlier? How did he suddenly appear behind Yan Xuanyang? What a terrifying finger. I'm afraid his divine energy has reached a level where it can destroy everything. Yan Xuanyang lost. This sudden turn of events had undoubtedly caused all the gods to gasp. Because even though the battle between the two of them seemed to have only lasted for a short period of time, the level of danger within it had long since exceeded their imaginations, and it had even exceeded the scope of their ability to endure. It could be seen that Lei Gong Lin Ling was much stronger than them. Only Lord Ning had an unfathomable smile on his face. However, almost at the same time, Lin Ling spoke calmly. What a powerful talent. I almost missed it. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Your eyesight is also very good. I thought I could hide it from you, but it seems that it's impossible. Just as Lin Ling finished his words, the lightning in the void reassembled, and a figure appeared quietly. It was Yan Xuanyang. At this moment, not only was she fine, but her aura was also twice as strong as before. This change shocked all the gods once again. This was because Lin Ling and Yan Xuanyang were both illusionary and illusory at the same time. No one could tell which was real and which was fake. Previously, Lin Ling was clearly defeated. However, Lin Ling turned the tables and killed Yan Xuanyang. When everyone thought that Yan Xuanyang was defeated, Yin Sun-young appeared again. Not only was she fine, but her strength was also twice as strong. As expected of a god, who was personally taught by a god of the spirit nation. A god said in admiration, if not for the appearance of Luli Empress, Yin Sun-young would have been cultivating with a god of the spirit nation. Unfortunately, that opportunity was snatched away by Luli Empress. Someone else said, gods who can be personally taught by the great god of the spirit kingdom are existences that cannot be underestimated. To date, there are no more than 50 gods who have been personally taught by the great god of the spirit kingdom. Everyone else had a look of reverence on their faces. They now knew why Yin Sun-young was given such an important position. As Lin Ling listened to the gods, his gaze also landed on Yin Sun-young. He knew that Yin Sun-young was the strongest among the gods. Lei Gong Lin Ling, in this lifetime, I will never lose to the same move twice. Previously, you killed me with a single finger. This move is no longer effective against me. At this moment, Yin Xuanyang also spoke coldly. Really? Lin Ling shook his head. Of course, compared to his surprise, Pure Maiden who was watching from afar was even more surprised. Because only she knew how long Lin Ling had cultivated the clones of avatars. And he'd actually cultivated 3,000 clones in such a short period of time. Boom. Boom. However, the 3,000 avatars had 90% of Lin Ling's strength. Obviously, they were not enough to withstand 200,000 strands of godly energy. Hence, the avatars continued to explode. Fellow cultivators disperse. Okay, the remaining avatars spoke to each other, and then scattered in all directions. Trying to escape? Yin Xuanyang knew that she had very little time. Hence, she had to use this time to defeat Lin Ling. She urged more lightning sparrows to pursue Lin Ling. Boom! One avatar exploded. Bang! Another avatar exploded. Bang! 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 More and more avatars exploded. Yin Xuanyang's divine steps was an attack-type technique. However, it was obviously very terrifying and heaven-defying. It was definitely at the elementary level. Especially when combined with her innate talent. Her strength was incomparably ferocious. Lei Gong Lin Ling can't resist at all. Of course. Just you wait. If Lin Ling doesn't admit defeat, he'll definitely die. Those avatars actually have their own thoughts. That's really impressive. However, there are fewer and fewer of them now. The gods in the distance stared fixedly at the intense battle, their emotions surging with excitement. Boom! As the last avatar exploded, the entire void once again belonged to Lin Ling. Did I win? Yin Xuanyang could feel the power of the divine steps weakening. She revealed an excited smile. That's not necessarily true. Now is your weakest moment. Sorry you've lost. However, at this moment, a figure strangely walked out of the void and pointed a finger at Yin Xuanyang. I am a divine fetus left behind after the twilight of the gods. However, due to the impact of the war of the gods, my divine fetus was not born. 100,000 years ago, the great god of the spirit nation stepped into the realm of the gods and brought me back. He then awakened me and trained me. You can say that I am a spirit, a chess piece hidden in the dark by the spirit nation. Now you understand. Yin Sun-young said indifferently. She was actually a god from the era of the gods. However, at that time, she had not been born. However, she already possessed the bloodline and inheritance of the gods. This was also the first time she revealed her origin, causing the gods in the distance to be shocked. No wonder Yin Sun-young was able to surpass them time and time again despite his ordinary appearance. It turned out that Yin Sun-yang's origin was actually so terrifying. Admit defeat. Although you are the most wanted criminal in the spirit nation, and I should kill you, Lord Ning is a man of his word. We have agreed that the key will be decided by the outcome of the battle. Therefore, I will spare your life. Yin Sun-young said again. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you have lost. Lord Ning smiled faintly. He was not surprised by this result. This was because he knew that when Yin Sun-young activated the steps of the gods, even he would have to avoid it, let alone Lin Ling. Now that he had witnessed Lin Ling's defeat, if Lin Ling's mentality was not good, it was possible that he would lose his will to fight. Thinking of this, Lord Ning nodded in satisfaction. Just as he was about to speak again, swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, the space behind Lord Ning was torn apart. A figure walked out slowly with a majestic aura and pointed a finger at Yin Sun Yang. Yin Sun Yang did not notice this sudden change. When she reacted, she felt a chill on the back of her neck, as if she had been hit by a finger. Of course, it was just a touch. It did not attack her. You have lost. At the same time, a cold voice was heard, causing Yin Sun Yang to tremble. She could not help but stare at Lin Ling in front of her. The originally pained Lin Ling smiled and said, "I'm sorry, but this is not my real body." Yin Sun Yang turned around and saw a cold man standing behind her. It was Lin Ling. This was the real Lin Ling. It turned out that the Lin Ling in front of her was also a fake. The real Lin Ling had just surfaced. With just one look, Yin Sun Yang's body trembled. True and false, false and true. This was the true case of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Just when she thought she had cleared the clouds and seen the blue sky, the real blue sky had just appeared. How could I have lost? Yin Sun Yang mumbled to herself, as if she could not believe the result in front of her. She had awakened the steps of God at a young age, and was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. Chapter 45-46. This is the result of everyone's hard work. Lin Ling also bowed slightly to him. Then I'll take my leave first. That doppelganger seemed to be Lin Ling's friend. After saying that, it exploded and disappeared. Lin Ling also looked at Lord Ning and said with a smile, "Lord Ning, thank you for letting me win." After saying that, he walked towards White Water Maiden. White Water Maiden also quietly looked at Lin Ling walking over. She was still shocked because Lin Ling had cultivated 3,000 doppelgangers. Most importantly, the time required to cultivate 3,000 doppelgangers was only 1 day. She couldn't help but be curious about the ancient figure behind Lin Ling. Could it be Lin Ling's master? Lin Ling, wait. Suddenly, Lord Ning's voice sounded. Lin Ling also stopped in his tracks and looked at Lord Ning indifferently. Lord Ning seemed to want to say something but hesitated. His face gradually turned cold. "Lord Ning, you want me to leave the key behind, right?" Seeing Lord Ning's expression, Lin Ling could guess what was going on. He smiled and said, "Didn't I say that Lord Ning is a man of his words? Why are you going back on your words after losing?" This sentence was like a knife that ruthlessly stabbed into Lord Ning's heart. This was because he really wanted to snatch Lin Ling's key. After all, the great god of Spirit Nation had instructed him to get the key to the 8 gods' heavenly palace no matter what. Now that he returned empty-handed, he couldn't report back. Although going back on his words was different from Lord Ning's principles. In his heart, the Spirit Nation would always be the number one. "That's right, share the key with us." Lord Ning suddenly gritted his teeth and said shamelessly for the first time, "Lei Gong, hand over the key." The other gods also threw caution to the wind and said shamelessly. They had many experts here, but there were only 2 Lin Ling. If they still could not bring back the key, they would be too ashamed to face anyone in the Spirit Kingdom. Looking at the restless crowd, Lin Ling calmly smiled. "Lord Ning, I can tell you that it is impossible for you to obtain my key. But, if you really want to go back and report to your superiors, then on account of the help you gave me in Spirit Light City, I can tell you other methods." Hearing this, Lord Ning laughed contemptuously and said with a ferocious expression, "Is that so? Unfortunately, I want your key. Let me give you a word of advice. If you really make a move, you will be the ones to suffer." Lin Ling was not afraid. "Attack!" Lord Ning didn't waste any more words. He summoned all the gods to attack. Yin Xuanyang was the only one who did not make a move. She felt that she had lost to Lin Ling, and was too ashamed to fight against Lin Ling. After Lord Ning gave the order, he took the lead and pounced on Lin Ling. Terrifying divine vitality was spat out, forming a dazzling light around his body, like a sea urchin. Behind him, the other gods also went all out, and none of them held back. "Attack!" Seeing this, Lin Ling shook his head and said to the White Maiden. The White Maiden nodded and said disdainfully, "A bunch of ants who overestimate themselves." However, the conversation between the two almost made the other gods laugh. "Attack!" The two of them wanted to fight against so many of them? What a fool! Even Lord Ning's face was full of sarcasm. Just as he was about to say something, he saw that the one who attacked was the mysterious woman. Not only did Lin Ling not attack, but he also took a step back. One person wanted to fight against so many gods. Lord Ning was a little dumbfounded. Not to mention the woman. Even Lin Ling could not stop all of them. Splash! But at this moment, the White Maiden gently waved her arm, and the water of the heavenly river flooded over, mixed with terrifying power, and rushed toward Lord Ning and the others. The rolling river water was like thousands of horses galloping. The power was so strong that it did not seem to come from the void of the 9 states, but from the era of the gods. In the river water, the power of the gods seemed to be endless. Oh no! Lord Ning's expression changed instantly. He wanted to dodge, but it was obviously too late. Rumble! When the heavenly river rushed over, Lord Ning, who was the fastest, could not control his body and was sent flying backward. He was submerged in the river water and spat out a mouthful of blood. Behind him, the gods who wanted to harm Lin Ling all changed their expressions and burst out with terrifying speed, wanting to escape from the heavenly river. Rumble! However, they were also submerged in the heavenly river and could not withstand a single blow. Don't kill him. At this time, Lin Ling also reminded. He was shocked by the White Maiden's strength, because even Lin Ling would find it difficult to defeat Lord Ning with his full strength. However, the White Maiden only needed one move. They want to harm you. Why don't you kill them? The White Maiden said coldly. Lord Ning is Grandpa Treasure God's opponent. Leave him to Grandpa Treasure God. Lin Ling turned and left. The White Maiden curled her lips. To her, Lord Ning and the others were just ants. In the Spirit Nation, only the great god of the Spirit Nation made her afraid. However, since Lin Ling did not allow her to kill them, she was too lazy to do so. Count yourselves lucky. Whitewater Pure Maiden stared into the distance with disdain. She also followed Lin Ling. Rumble! The rolling water of the heavenly river rolled in the void, pushing Lord Ning and the others further and further away. They were almost at the Kaiyuan River, but the river water began to weaken. In the boiling water, Lord Ning and the others floated up and down, looking very miserable. Especially Lord Ning. His hair was messy and his clothes were torn. It was probably the first time in his life that he was in such a sorry state. Most importantly, the other party only waved her hand, and he ended up like this. If she wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping her hand. The river water gradually dissipated in all directions. Lord Ning and the others floated in the void, as if they had just survived a disaster. They were all dumbstruck, as if they had not reacted yet. Good, strong. After a long time, Lord Ning said in a dignified voice, Lord Ning, who is that woman? Isn't her strength a little too terrifying? She defeated all of us by herself. Could it be that she is a middle god? After the gods recovered from their shock, they all spoke. Lord Ning looked deeply at Lin Ling's departure, and his heart became more serious. Now there were several experts in the Lei Gong Hall. Nanwufengyu Treasure God, the mysterious woman from before, and the missing Saint Yi. The Lei Gong Hall was not to be underestimated. Let's go back. Not daring to stay any longer, Lord Ning led the others away. However, when they returned to the void, they saw a piece of paper floating in the void. Other than that, there was only Yin Sun Yang. She did not make a move before, so the White Maiden did not touch her. Lord Ning, are you all okay? Yin Sun Yang immediately asked when she saw the others coming back. Is this left by Lin Ling? Lord Ning did not answer Yin Sun Yang's question. Instead, he stared at the piece of paper, waved his right hand and received it. After looking at it carefully, his face changed. On the paper, it said that the other key was known by Taoist Duobao. Chapter 45-47. Taoist Myriad Treasure said that Lin Ling has the key to the 8th floor. But Lin Ling also said that Taoist Myriad Treasures has the key to the 8th floor. This Lin Ling is definitely paying back an eye for an eye. However, I'll trust Lin Ling this time, and let Great God ask him. Lord Ning left with everyone. In fact, his guess was right. Taoist Myriad Treasures wanted to harm him. So how could Lin Ling not do anything? Thus, Lin Ling was also paying back an eye for an eye. At this time, Lin Ling brought White Pure Maiden closer and closer to the final world. Lin Ling looked at the ancient continent and suddenly smiled at White Pure Maiden. White Pure Maiden, I heard that you sing very well. Why don't you sing a song? Not everyone can listen to my songs. White Pure Maiden coldly snorted. Only Lin Ling could think of making an intermediate god like her sing. Didn't this servant listen to master's words? Singing a song is already so difficult. Yet you still want to help me? I think you should go back to the broken domain godly land. Lin Ling immediately smiled and said, only this time there won't be a next time. White Pure Maiden fiercely clenched her teeth and finally compromised. Gentlemen, please listen carefully for me. Bells, drums, and jade are not expensive. I only hope that you will be drunk forever and never wake up. Since ancient times, sages have been lonely. Only those who drink leave their names behind. Kings of Chun used to hold banquets of peace and joy, drinking 10,000 cups of wine. Why do people say less? Listen carefully. Gentlemen, please don't stop drinking. Spend all your money and leave your name behind. You will be drunk forever and never wake up. Don't say that sages are lonely. There will always be time that is hard to pass. Don't say that the past days are bitter. Once the morning sun breaks through the smoke basket, let's drink another cup. The horizon is meaningless, there are not many words. You travel east with your sword. I pass by on a white horse. The melodious voice drifted with the wind and spread throughout the entire void. Lin Ling quietly listened. His heart was incomparably tranquil. A bit of carefreeness and boldness poured into his heart. You travel east with your sword. I pass by on a white horse. When the song ended, Lin Ling couldn't help but praise. He recalled the time when he was in the ancient Face sect, the Heaven Mystics Kingdom, and the sacred ground of the rainforest. A pot of wine, a sword unfettered under the heavens. Let's go home. Lin Ling laughed and shot towards the final world, finally returning to the void where Lei Gong's palace was located. Lord Lei Gong. When Lin Ling returned, everyone was very happy. Lin Ling inspected the void. Everything was fine, and it was even more prosperous than before. After a long time, in the discussion hall of Lei Gong's great hall, Lin Ling sat at the head of the table. Below him were all the experts in Lei Gong's great hall. Everyone was looking at Lin Ling with eyes full of awe. Of course, they also saw the mysterious woman beside Lin Ling. They discovered that she was a late-stage low god, a god. Now, I have the key to the 8th level of the 8 gods celestial palace. Lin Ling looked at everyone. Of course, most of them were looking at the giant ghost. Without a doubt, the giant ghost was very excited because he wanted to return to the 8 gods celestial palace and see his master one last time. However, within these 3 years I don't plan to enter. But at this time Lin Ling spoke again. Then he saw the confusion on everyone's face and explained, because in these 3 years, there will be experts coming. For safety reasons, I will enter the 8 gods celestial palace after this matter is over. Lin Ling, where did these experts come from? Treasure god Nanwufengyu immediately asked. I think they are from the Chaos World. Lin Ling recalled Lord Ning's words and explained. Chaos World, they are indeed coming. Treasure god Nanwufengyu had heard of the Chaos World when he was in the Ji-Er Ox Cave, so he wasn't surprised. Because the trip to the 8 gods celestial palace will take a long time. If we leave, no one knows what will happen. Moreover, the Chaos World is an unknown world. We have no clue what kind of experts they will send here. Therefore, it is best to wait for them here. Lin Ling added. All right, I'll listen to Lord Lei Gong. Everyone understood Lin Ling's meaning and nodded. Lin Ling also looked at the giant ghost with an apologetic expression. It's fine, we have waited for so many years. Another 2 or 3 years won't make a difference. The giant ghost also knew the importance of 3 years. So he waved his hand at Lin Ling. Lin Ling nodded, then looked at young Qilin and said, Young Qilin, go find the Kirushin, Titanic Crescent God, and the others. Tell them about this, so that they can prepare in advance. Now that Lin Ling was the leader of the 4 gods, Lin Ling naturally wouldn't hide anything. Before the experts arrived, the 9 continents void would be unified. Of course, even so, he still felt some pressure. This was because Lin Ling didn't know what kind of experts were in the chaos world. From the experts that appeared in the Ox cave, the chaos world's strength must be beyond imagination. In the following days, Lin Ling didn't go anywhere. He stayed in Lei Gong's hall to cultivate. Occasionally, he would give pointers to his son, and occasionally accompany Yu and the others. His days were very peaceful. As for White Maiden, she didn't leave Lin Ling's hall, nor did she stay in Lei Gong's hall. Instead, she found a quiet place in the void to cultivate. Of course, she was also a little shocked by this vast void. She didn't know where Lin Ling found this place. Although there wasn't any spiritual energy in this void, she knew that if she used it properly, spiritual energy would be born in a place without spiritual energy. At that time, another void of the 9 prefectures would be born. Of course, this was easier said than done. At least with White Maiden's strength, she couldn't do this. Lin Ling didn't pay attention to White Maiden. During this period of time, he had been cultivating, but his progress was slow. This allowed Lin Ling to finally experience the feeling of being stuck at a bottleneck. However, Lin Ling wasn't in a hurry. He continued to accompany Yu and the others every day. He also sent out scouts to pay attention to the 9 continents void. On this day, a scout finally replied. A large number of experts had appeared in Yuzhou. Lin Ling even recognized the 2 leaders. They were the underworld demon sealer and other experts. These guys have appeared again. It seems that the storm is coming. Lin Ling knew that the underworld demon sealer and other experts wouldn't appear for no reason. In fact, after the underworld demon sealer and other experts appeared, another sensational news came. The Ox Demon clan of the Ox cave had appeared. The seal of the Ox cave seemed to have been completely broken. All the demons had arrived in the 9 continents void. Of course, in this chaotic situation, the Spirit Nation naturally came as well. Eugene also transmitted a message to Lin Ling, saying that they had discovered Luli Empress in the 9 continents void. Clearly, Lord Ning had passed Lin Ling's verbal order to Luli Empress. Therefore, the latter didn't hide anything and openly came to the 9 continents void. Her appearance was definitely filled with confidence, and her current strength was probably not weak at all. Let's go. Our Lei Gong Hall should also surface. If there were still people alive who witnessed this scene with their own eyes, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. Martial Uncle Xing quickly A middle-aged man beside the old man said worriedly, I don't know. I haven't seen that guy for many years. I don't know where he is now. The old man laughed bitterly. Aren't you his master? See if you have a way to inform him. The middle-aged man said again, I have a way to find him, but it will take some time. Look at the current situation. By the time I inform him, it will be too late. The old man shook his head helplessly. Someone heard the old man's words and asked curiously, Martial Uncle Xing, who is Lin Ling? Can he help us? Even if that Lin Ling is here, he will still die. Lin Ling? What a familiar name. Could it be Lei Gong Lin Ling? But why would Lei Gong Lin Ling care about our lives? He is a god. At first, no one knew who Lin Ling was, but they gradually realized who he was. The middle-aged man saw that his disciple was nagging and immediately reprimanded. What do you know? In fact, Lei Gong Lin Ling was Martial Uncle Xing's disciple back then. Only the sect leader and a few elders know about this. Martial Uncle Xing is Lei Gong Lin Ling's master? What kind of joke is this? Obviously no one believed it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's get out of here as soon as possible. The old man waved his hand and stopped talking about this topic. He was Xing Xiu Yin of the Spirit Province, the master who brought Lin Ling out of the Green Province back then. However, he rarely saw Lin Ling after that. To avoid becoming a burden to Lin Ling, he rarely told others that he was Lin Ling's master. Moreover, Lin Ling was now one of the 4 great gods, and he was only an elder of a sect. No one would believe him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, at that moment, several armor fragments locked onto them and shot down from the sky. Some of these armor fragments were boxing gloves, while others were knee pads. However, they were all wrapped in a wisp of blue light and emitted an evil aura. If one was touched by it, they would definitely die. We're being targeted. Quick, quick, quick. Everyone's expression changed drastically. However, with their speed, how could they escape the pursuit of the armor in the sky? I'm afraid we're going to die. Everyone's hearts were dead. They never thought that they would encounter such a disaster on their rare trip to the Spirit Province. Sir, this is the Void of the Nine Province, not the underworld. However, at that moment, a dazzling golden light bloomed in the sky. A dragon roared and swept across the armor. The huge dragon tail swept across. And with a few bangs, the armor was all turned into dust. At the same time, countless divine dragons appeared in the sky above the Spirit Province. Their dazzling light illuminated this part of the world. Dragon, this is a real dragon. All the warriors in the Spirit Province knelt down. They were shocked and excited. The dragon race of the Kaiyuan River? Almost at the same time, a hoarse voice sounded from a certain direction in the city. Then, a silent gray light rushed into the sky, causing the entire city to shake. Then, a large number of figures floated in the sky. These people were all wearing armor, but their faces couldn't be seen clearly. It was as if they were all underworld knights. Only 2 of them were comparable to humans, but their auras were a bit terrifying. Chapter 45-49. Hehe. Looks like the news spread by the Taoist of many treasures has reached the Kaiyuan River. Even the Dragon Clan has come. You must be the dragon god of the Dragon Clan. In the distance, the underworld berserker stared at the dragon god with a smile. He was more or less curious about a legendary figure like the dragon god. You also received news from the Taoist of many treasures? The dragon god narrowed his eyes at the underworld berserker. Hehe, there are quite a few gods who have received this news. Just wait, there will be even more gods coming. The underworld berserker said sinisterly. Let's not talk about this for now. You are an ancient god. So why are you killing these mortals? The dragon god asked again. What does it have to do with the dragon clan, that I'm killing these mortals? Everyone below the gods are ants. Who knows how many people die in the void every day? Why don't you care? The underworld berserker said disdainfully. Although he was facing the dragon god, he was clearly not afraid. I don't care about other places, but this is Brother Lin Ling's territory. You killed his people here, so I have to care. The dragon god immediately said, his voice becoming colder. Hehe. Since when did the noble dragon clan have a relationship with Lin Ling? This Lin Ling isn't strong at all, but he's good at making connections. However, since you don't want me to kill them, I'll kill them. Anyway, waiting for an ancient god is boring, so let's play. The underworld berserker pointed at the ground. The underworld berserker around him exploded, turning into countless sets of armor that flooded the ground. Dragon clan, heed my order. Destroy them. The dragon god saw how arrogant the underworld berserker was, so he no longer gave him any face. Roar! Countless dragon gods swooped down from the sky, sweeping away the armor. These dragon gods were so powerful that they immediately shattered the armor, causing the underworld berserker's expression to turn ugly. The dragon tribe really knows how to flatter. In the past, I didn't see you meddling in the matters of the void of the 9 regions. Now that the Thunder God Palace has risen, you are flattering the Thunder God Palace like dogs. It's really ugly. However, others may be afraid of the dragon tribe, but I am not. However, at that moment, the ground in the distance shook. Demons danced wildly, and a large number of mad bulls rushed over, as if they were about to destroy the entire spirit province. Ear Ox Cave, Ox Demon Clan. Bang bang bang. Amidst the endless raging bulls, a gigantic ox demon that towered into the clouds strode forward. With each step, the spirit province trembled, and the ground continued to crack. Demons, 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 demons. The underworld berserker. The continent's warriors were demons, of course. They had never seen such a scene demon like this. In the sky, there were ancient dragons. On the ground, there were bull demons that came out of nowhere. There were also ghost-like armors. The spirit province had become a living hell. In the end, the cultivators of the spirit state were not gods. and they could not defend against the apocalyptic methods of these gods. "It's you, old ox." The dragon god recognized the Ox Demon clan's leader, and his expression darkened. With the Ox Demon clan joining the fray, the Dragon clan would have a hard time fighting against two gods at the same time. "Dragon clan, I'm here to help you." However, there were many gods in the spirit province. Suddenly, a large number of Taoists in immortal robes appeared in the distance. They stepped on rainbow-colored lights and flew over quickly. They were from the 10 orthodoxies. The demon sealer of the underworld and the Ox Demon tribe's clan leader narrowed their eyes when they saw the 10 orthodoxies. Back in the Ji-Er Ox cave, they had seen the 10 orthodoxies and knew how powerful these 10 gods were. However, the 10 orthodoxies had always minded their own business. Why would they help the Dragon clan? For a moment, the two gods were at each other's throats, as if a great battle would break out at any moment. How lively! Suddenly, a huge battleship appeared in the distance. Upon closer inspection, the battleship looked like a boundless island. On the battleship, a large number of deities in white robes appeared. They were the experts of the spirit nation. On the battleship, there were 4 experts standing at the head of the battleship. They all had capes draped over their shoulders, and they exuded a majestic aura. One of them was Lord Ning, but the other 3 looked unfamiliar. However, the dragon god and the others had dealt with the spirit nation before. They knew that the other 4 were the 4 great spiritual gods of the spirit nation. They were also the 4 strongest gods below the great gods. According to legend, the 4 of them were half a step into the intermediate god realm. It was almost certain that they would become intermediate gods. There were only 2 known intermediate gods in the void who had such strength. It really is a gathering of all sorts. The dragon god could not help but sigh. After the appearance of the spirit nation, the demon sealer of the underworld, and the Ox Demon clan did not dare to be too arrogant. They had a feeling that as time passed, more and more gods would arrive. "Haha, everyone is here. How have you all been since we parted at the Ji-Er Ox cave?" Sure enough, more gods appeared in the distance. They were the Black Dragon, Old Man Fo Chun, and the other gods. They were also the powerhouses who appeared at the Ji-Er Ox cave. After their arrival, the immortal spirit nation also appeared. Next was the mysterious god ruler of the Yu continent. The leader was an old man standing on a green lotus. He had an immortal aura around him. He was the Green Lotus god ruler. Chapter 45-50. Silence. The spirit state was silent, whether it was the people far away, or the gods in the spirit state capital. All of their expressions changed drastically. To be able to kill a god with a single move, this Green Lotus Immortal Slayer's strength is simply too terrifying. Could it be the strength of an intermediate god? On the huge battleship, Lord Ning and the others focused their gazes and had a rough understanding of the Green Lotus deity sovereign's strength. That was terrifying. Perhaps only the great gods of Spirit Nation could fight against him. Legend has it that this person was formed from the Green Lotus of Tao. Back then, he became the Grandmaster Grand Tutor's disciple during the Age of Gods. He is the only god who survived the Grandmaster Grand Tutor's disciple. Now it seems that his strength is truly terrifying. The dragon god thought. He knew that there would be a lot of twists and turns in the gathering of the gods in the spirit state today. I don't have time to waste my breath with you juniors. Now let's just wait obediently for the ancient great god to arrive. I want to see if the ancient great god who spread the rumors is an old friend of mine. I also have a few important things to ask him. The Green Lotus deity sovereign closed his eyes again and sat cross-legged in the sky. The gods around him guarded him. His expression was full of holiness, as if he was looking down on the void. Time quietly passed. With the appearance of the Green Lotus deity sovereign, the 9 provinces became much quieter. However, not long after, a voice quietly sounded in the sky. It seems that we're late. A large group of gods stepped on 7-colored clouds and arrived in a grandiose manner. They were the hosts of the 9 prefectures' 4 great gods. They were the Kurishin, Titanic Crescent god, and Eugene. How slow. Could it be that they're afraid of losing face, so they're so slow? Staring at the Kurishin and the others, a sinister voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. The 9 provinces is the world of the 4 great gods. As the masters, they're so slow. If it's not fear, then what is it? What 4 great pieces of trash? Another person mocked. The Kurishin and the others naturally heard those voices. They had smiles on their faces and didn't care. In truth, they also knew that the gods of the 9 provinces were gathered here. The 4 great gods of the 9 provinces were very ordinary here. There were many gods more powerful than them. Where's Lei Gong? Don't tell me he doesn't dare to appear. Suddenly someone spoke. Strangely enough, the entire spirit province fell silent as soon as he spoke. In a faraway place, the cultivators from the 9 prefectures were also breathing rapidly. Lei Gong Lin Ling, the number 1 person in the void of the 9 prefectures, was recognized as the overlord of this void. This was a powerhouse who had grown step by step from a trial taker. After going through numerous trials and challenges, he was finally acknowledged as the number 1 king among the 4 great gods. Although this news wasn't announced by the 4 gods, many people had more or less noticed it over the years. If Lei Gong were to appear, would you still dare to speak in such a tone? The Kurishin suddenly sneered. He realized that the speaker seemed to be from the Ox Demon clan. As soon as he spoke, the Ox Demon clan fell silent. Clearly, the person who had spoken harshly earlier was silent and didn't dare to speak. Lei Gong Lin Ling, how amazing is he? If I remember correctly, when Lin Ling saw the ancient gods in the Ear-Ox cave, he could only run away like a rat crossing the street. The Ox Demon clan was still silent, but the demon sealer of the underworld said sarcastically, ever since he lost to Lin Ling in the 8 gods' celestial palace, the demon sealer of the underworld had always wanted to redeem himself. Unfortunately, every time he became stronger, Lin Ling also became stronger, causing him to suppress his humiliation. Now that he saw the gods and his strength had increased greatly, he naturally wanted to hit Lin Ling while he was down. Yes, under the sacred mountain, during the Battle of the Stone Tablets, that brat only dared to do some sneaky things while the gods were fighting. Beside him, a pitch-black woman with 4 arms said sarcastically. She was from the South Tomb of the Underworld, and had met Lin Ling once in the 8 gods' celestial palace. Haha, sneaky things, what a nice way to put it. At this time, the voice of the Ox Demon clan sounded again. Looking carefully, it turned out to be the young master of the Ox Demon clan. No wonder he hated Lin Ling so much. Lin Ling had made him lose face time and again. Ha ha ha. After he laughed, the demons of the Ox Demon clan also laughed heartily. This also caused the gods to laugh more or less. Obviously, these people had a grudge against Lin Ling. Now that they saw Lin Ling's sudden rise, they felt very depressed. Therefore, at this moment, they took advantage of the gods' presence to vent their displeasure. I'm sneaky. This is the first time I, Lei Gong Lin Ling, have heard of such a thing. I'm very curious, who thinks I'm sneaky? However, at this time, a hearty voice suddenly sounded. The voice was not loud, but it was like a thunderclap. It caused the entire spirit province, and even the entire Jiuzhou, to fall silent. Lin Ling is here. On the huge warship, Lord Ning quietly narrowed his eyes. In his eyes, under the distant sky, a large group of experts strolled over. These were the experts of the Great Hall of Lei Gong. The man in the lead was dressed in a blue robe and carried a large sword on his back. His calm eyes looked ahead, but there was a sense of majesty in them, as if a divine king had arrived. Lin Ling. The people who were laughing before all stopped laughing at this moment. No matter how much they looked down on Lin Ling, when Lin Ling personally appeared in front of them, they still felt a huge pressure. At the end of the day, it was Lin Ling's battle achievements. Lin Ling's glory, Lin Ling's brilliance was too dazzling. In any battle between the gods, Lin Ling's shadow was bound to be present. Just as people had thought, Lin Ling had already become a top cultivator in the 9 states step by step, from a mere trial taker to an irresistible top cultivator. Moreover, in the hearts of the gods, Lin Ling's strength was also very strong. Back then, he was only a mid-stage low god, but he was already able to fight against a late-stage low god. If Lin Ling was allowed to reach late-stage low god, his strength would definitely be unimaginable. Lin Ling, Lei Gong Lin Ling. As expected, The strongest of the Jiuzhou's 4 great gods is Lei Gong Lin Ling. In a distant place, the warriors from the Jiuzhou's 9 prefectures were in high spirits. Now in any of the Jiuzhou's 9 prefectures, there were legends and footsteps of Lin Ling. It was as if every household knew about him. Lin Ling, you're so powerful. At this moment in the world capital, a group of young people was extremely excited. They felt that they were extremely lucky to be able to meet this legendary figure. Uncle Master Xing, didn't you say that Lin Ling was once your disciple? Now that you've seen Lin Ling, do you still dare to say that? One of the disciples looked at an old man and said. The old man smiled awkwardly. Although Lin Ling was his disciple, he was just an insignificant mortal, while his disciple was already the strongest god in the Jiuzhou. How would he dare to acknowledge him? I knew Uncle Master Xing was bragging. Seeing the old man's expression, the disciple immediately curled his lips and said. Chapter 45-51. Master, why are you here? At this moment, a surprised voice came from the sky. It was Lin Ling's voice. Mas, Master. The disciples beside Xing Xian turned their heads and looked at the person who spoke. Then, they rubbed their eyes frantically, afraid that they had seen wrongly. This was because they saw that the person who spoke was Lei Gong Lin Ling, who had led Lei Gong Lin Ling to the main hall. Although this was their first time seeing Lin Ling, from the reactions of the gods around them, he was indeed the number 1 god of the 9 prefectures' 4 great gods. And now, such a high and mighty god was calling Uncle Master Xing his master? When we first entered the sect, we heard that Uncle Master Xing had a very impressive disciple. But after so many years, we have never seen him. We thought it was a joke. What joke? This is real, it's real. Uncle Master Xing's disciple is really Lei Gong Lin Ling. We didn't believe Uncle Master Xing's words before. The disciples trembled in excitement and reverence. Of course, Xing Xian was equally excited. He knew that Lin Ling was not an ungrateful person, but he did not expect that Lin Ling would take the initiative to acknowledge him in front of so many gods. Moreover, Lin Ling's tone was extremely polite. One had to know that the gods present were all powerful. Any one of them was thousands of times more powerful than him. How could a mere mortal like him have the right to stand out? Xing Xian was touched, but he immediately smiled and said, I was just passing by. Are you all right? Lin Ling asked again. I'm fine. What could happen to us? Xing Xian waved his hand. However, a disciple beside him said, Uncle Master, we are Uncle Master Xing's disciples. We almost died just now. Oh. Lin Ling frowned. His careless action gave the disciple a fright. He was afraid that he had said something wrong. Chaijiu, who allowed you to speak nonsense? Xing Xian grumbled. He could tell that even though Lin Ling was the number 1 immortal in the 9 prefectures, he was still not qualified to make the other immortals fear him. Now that that disciple had said this, Lin Ling was caught between a rock and a hard place. He couldn't afford to offend those immortals, but neither could he afford to offend them. However, Lin Ling didn't say anything. His cold eyes looked at the gods in the distance, and he instantly knew who had attacked. It was because the ground was covered with sleeping corpses, and there was nether energy within the corpses. This meant that the ones who attacked his master were from the nether realm. Although his master, Xing Xiuyin, was as weak as a mortal, and did not give much guidance to Lin Ling back then, he had helped Lin Ling several times. Now that he had almost been killed, how could Lin Ling just stand by and watch? The demon sealer noticed Lin Ling's gaze and shrugged. I'm sorry, I really didn't know he was your master. If I did, I definitely wouldn't have killed him. At this point he paused and continued. I would have killed him immediately. His unbridled expression was on full display. It could be said that he was not afraid of Lin Ling at all, and he even made Lin Ling lose face. This also caused many experts to look at the demon sealer. They remembered that when they were in the Ear Ox cave, the demon sealer was not very strong. But now, his strength had clearly more than doubled. Lin Ling nodded and looked at the Ox demon tribe. Earlier I heard someone say that I was a thief, is that right? His gaze was like a torch in the eyes of the demons, and they didn't dare to look directly at Lin Ling. It was because Lin Ling had put too much pressure on the 72 caves back in the Ear Ox cave. That's right, I said that. However, the young master couldn't bear to be humiliated and shouted loudly. His father was beside him. So what was there to be afraid of? All right, I'll show you now whether I'm a thief or an upright person. Giant Ghost, God Emperor Zhanggang, chop him up. Lin Ling shouted majestically. His voice sounded like a bugle horn, and all the gods' eyes narrowed. Back in the Ear Ox Cave, Lin Ling had used the Battle of the Gods to steal the stone tablet. At that time, he didn't dare to face the gods. But now, he thought of himself as the king of the gods and dared to make a move in front of the gods. Roger. Giant Ghost and God Emperor Zhanggang sneered and pounced over. You dare to touch the young master. Being bullied in front of everyone, the demons of the Ear Ox Cave couldn't take it lying down. They all erupted with terrifying auras. They were left behind from the era of the gods. So how could they be afraid of some juniors of the current era? Get lost. At this time Sakura, young Master Yao, and the others all made a move. They led the people of the God Slayer Alliance to block the demons. Upon closer inspection, other than the God Slayer Alliance, there were also the 9 Lanterns Fish, Lu Chun, and the former 12 martial gods of the 9 prefectures. In the past, these experts had to be looked up to by Lin Ling. But now, Lin Ling had surpassed them, and they were willing to stand behind Lin Ling and listen to Lin Ling's orders. Rumble. The God Slayer Alliance was no longer the same as before. Under Lin Ling's continuous bombardment of treasures, everyone's strength had greatly increased. They actually managed to block the attacks of the demons for a while. Of course, when the 72 cave masters saw that the situation wasn't right, they also made a move. But this time, Leigong's Hall also made a move. Compared to the God Slayer Alliance, Leigong's Hall's overall strength was undoubtedly stronger. Under the lead of young Lin, the 72 cave masters were also retreating. They were in a sorry state. Lin Ling, how awe-inspiring. Seeing the domineering battle in the Leigong's Hall, the Kirishin, Titanic Crescent God, and the others felt their blood boiling. This was especially so for the 3 spirits, Qing Mo, and the others. They were the most excited because Lin Ling used to be one of the 8 new gods of the 9 prefectures. But unknowingly, Lin Ling was not only above them, but also above them. He was now one of the 4 great gods of the 9 prefectures. Old Lei passing the Leigong's Hall to him was the best decision of his life. The Kirishin side. The Leigong's Hall under Lin Ling's command was undoubtedly 10 times stronger than the one under Leigong's command in the past. Say it. Let's see if you still dare to say it. Today, I'll teach you how to be a human. Giant Ghost, is he even human? If he's a bull, then I'll teach him how to be a bull. With the help of the Leigong's Hall, Giant Ghost and the others reached the young master. Thump. The young master's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground in fright. His tall and sturdy body was now trembling. Back in the Xiaox cave, he didn't see the power of the Leigong's Hall. But now, he knew that the damned Lin Ling had so many powerful subordinates. Looks like he's the biggest winner in the Xiaox cave. He got countless treasures and groomed his subordinates. Of course, back in the 4th temple, he killed countless people and stole countless treasures. He killed many of our people. The gods in the distance had unsightly expressions. Through the Ox Devil clan, they also knew how powerful the Leigong's Hall was. Little Ox, why are you so flustered? Giant Ghost and the Celestial Crescent God walked toward the young master, who was so frightened that he kept crawling backward. He wanted to find help, but there was no one around to help him. Chapter 45-52. The Ox Demon Patriarch, in his giant form, stood there and watched. It wasn't that he didn't want to help, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. But who knew that his demons couldn't stop Leigong's attack at all? All right, my son only said a few words. You're a man, so why be so calculative? Let's forget about this matter. Now that his son had asked for help, he had to help. With that, he strode toward the Giant Ghost and the others, wanting to sweep them away. For Leigong's sake, I'll overlook your rudeness. Get lost. Obviously, he didn't dare to kill the Giant Ghost and the others easily. Of course, if it was before, with his tyrannical nature, he wouldn't have shown them any mercy. At the end of the day, it was because he was afraid of Lin Ling. Rumble. A huge palm slammed toward the giant ghost and the others, and the void immediately exploded, rumbling unceasingly. The Ox Demon Patriarch was a true god, stronger than the Steel Slayer God Emperor and the others, so they couldn't stop him. Old Ox, I'm teaching the younger generation a lesson. It's none of your business. But at this moment, a figure appeared in front of the giant ghost and the others and punched out. Boom! This punch collided with the Ox Demon Patriarchs, and there was no clear winner. Looking carefully, one could see a thin and weak figure in front of the Demon Ox Patriarch. His blue robe was fluttering in the wind. It was actually Lin Ling. You broke through. The Ox Demon Patriarch's body trembled, and his hair stood on end. Others didn't know about Lin Ling, but he knew very well. Back in the Ox cave, he once fought against Lin Ling, and was sent flying. At that time, Lin Ling hadn't broken through yet. Now that he had broken through, it seemed that he didn't even need to fuse with his innate talent, and could easily fight against him. Of course, the others were also shocked. After all, the Ox Demon Patriarch was a peak god, and his strength was slightly stronger than the Kyushin. They guessed that Lin Ling shouldn't be a match for the Ox Demon Patriarch. He was just a little bit weaker. Breakthrough. So that's how it is. Many gods guessed that after Lin Ling broke through, he would finally be able to contend against the Bull Demon Patriarch with his full strength. Below the huge battleship, a woman looked down indifferently with a cold expression. She was Lily Empress, but her eyes were very cold because she hadn't expected that Lin Ling's strength would increase again. Lei Gong, my son said something wrong. How about we both take a step back? At this moment, the Ox Demon Patriarch maintained his posture of punching out, but secretly unleashed his full strength. Unfortunately, he couldn't shake Lin Ling at all, so he said coldly, "Everyone take a step back." Lin Ling was like the immovable wisdom king. He smiled faintly. "I'm telling your son whether or not I'm a thief. Now, I'll chop him up in front of his father, and let him know that I don't need to steal to kill him. Don't be so arrogant." Hearing Lin Ling's condescending tone, the Ox Demon Patriarch was furious. It was rare for him to come out of the Ox cave, but in the end, he encountered such a freak. "I'm just so arrogant." Lin Ling maintained his punching posture, but the first part of his innate gifts had quietly fused. His divine energy increased sharply, especially the strength of his physical body. Now he was even more terrifying. At this moment, he was more like a true ox demon. Ka. The Ox Demon Patriarch's huge arm trembled, emitting a thunderous rumble, as if it was about to split open. This bastard can still become stronger. The Ox Demon Patriarch was shocked and didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Like an ox being pulled by its reins, he became obedient and docile. "Lin Ling, for better or worse, we've worked together in the Ox cave. Give this old ox some face, and let my son go." His words directly turned into begging for mercy. "Fine, I'll give you some face." Lin Ling nodded and retracted his fist. He said to the giant ghost and the others, "Give him 3 slaps to teach him a lesson. After all, he's our ox, don't kill him." "Okay." The giant ghost and the others laughed. Of course, they were secretly shocked. They remembered that before Lin Ling went to the Kaiyuan River, his strength wasn't so strong. This bastard really became stronger after the trip to the Kaiyuan River. "My ox, I don't want to be an ox." The young patriarch was about to cry. He still wanted to defeat Lin Ling and win Longyang's favor. But now, he had become an ox in Lei Gong's hall. "Shut up." The Ox Demon Patriarch shook his numb arm and scolded angrily. Then, he looked at Lin Ling with a trace of fear in his eyes. This brat was really a freak. Pa. Under everyone's gaze, 3 loud slaps sounded. After the giant ghost slapped the young patriarch, he asked proudly, "Now who's the thief?" It's me." The young patriarch had no choice but to admit defeat. Just like his father, he was like an ox tied up by the reins. When the gods saw this scene with their own eyes, their faces became even more solemn. Regardless of whether they admitted it or not, they had already admitted it in their hearts. Now Lin Ling had not only completely stepped into the ranks of the strongest gods, but his strength was also ranked at the top. And such news undoubtedly made them feel a great deal of pressure, and even a great deal of fear. especially on the side of the spirit nation. The four spiritual gods, including Lord Ning, all stared at Lin Ling, as if they couldn't believe that the young man in front of them was the junior who had caused havoc in the spirit nation. Is he still Lin Ling? Could it be that this is a fake Lin Ling? Someone muttered to himself, Lily Empress, do you still have the confidence to kill Lin Ling? Lord Ning secretly transmitted his voice to Lily Empress. The latter was silent, and her face was as calm as an ancient well. However, her hands, which were hidden in her sleeves, were tightly clenched into fists. Lin Ling's previous bull training had actually given her a lot of pressure. It could be said that she had already witnessed Lin Ling's rise in the world of gods, blooming with bright lights like fireworks. Alright, the matter of the Ox Demon clan is settled. Next, it's my master's matter. Underworld Demon Sealer, I want you dead. At this moment, Lin Ling's eyes turned and looked at the Underworld Demon Sealer. This Lin Ling seems to be settling scores with Yi. Xian Wuba frowned. He had a feeling that after the Underworld Demon Sealer was dealt with, it would be his turn next. As for the other gods, they felt that Lin Ling was declaring his sovereignty as the host, and also telling everyone that the void of the 9 prefectures was his territory. No one was allowed to behave atrociously here. Lei Gong. Seeing Lin Ling's gaze, the Underworld Demon Sealer gritted his teeth. If he didn't put Lin Ling in his eyes before, then Lin Ling's brief confrontation with the Ox Demon clan made him realize that Lin Ling seemed to be stronger than him. He didn't dare to say anything. Perhaps Lin Ling's action of killing the chicken to warn the monkey made him, a monkey from a circus, not dare to jump up and down. Finally, the burly tiger-headed man turned into an old man. This old man had a lion's mane, and his eyebrows were vertical. He was very majestic. 12 ancestors of witches, ancestor of thunder Wu Qiangliang. At this moment, the hearts of all the deities exploded. They had seen this ancient figure in the Ji-Erox cave. He was at the same level as the spirit nation's great god. However, he seemed to be heavily injured, and was not as strong as before. However, his knowledge, experience, and origin were not something that the current deities could compare to. This was because he was also a great ancient deity. Lei Gong Lin Ling, right? Back in the ancient era of the Thunder Tyrant, you were still drinking milk in the cycle of reincarnation. The old man went straight to the point and looked directly at Lin Ling. All those years ago at the foot of the Divine Mountain, Lin Ling had stolen the stone steel, and he'd been displeased with Lin Ling for a long time. Now, this junior had actually taken himself to be the lord of the era, and didn't take the gods seriously at all. And this made him even more displeased. Lei Gong Lin Ling, with your Lei Gong Hall, can you fight against the gods? After the arrival of ancestor of thunder Wu Qiangliang, the underworld sealer became even more confident and fearlessly looked at Lin Ling. With just the Lei Gong Hall, it is still a bit lacking. However, with the addition of us, at least we won't be sitting ducks. However, after the underworld sealer spoke, the Kurishin, Eugene and Titanic Crescent god all spoke up. After the establishment of the 9 provinces' 4 great gods, they once again joined forces to fight against an external enemy. The last time they were so united was when the previous Lei Gong was still around. Kurishin, your mission is to fight against the spirit nation. Now you are not only fighting against the spirit nation but also us. I can tell you that the spirit nation is still my enemy, but I, the divine ruler of Yuzhou, am prejudiced against this young Lei Gong. Do you want to oppose the divine ruler of Yuzhou? Suddenly, the Green Lotus Overlord opened his eyes and lightly asked. He had heard about the 4 gods. Lei Gong was forced to death by the other gods, causing this young Lei Gong to hate the Kurishin. According to common sense, such a great threat should be eliminated as soon as possible. So the Kurishin wanted nothing more than for Lin Ling to die. Moreover, Lin Ling was a rising god. The Kurishin wanted to take advantage of their seniority, so how could they listen to Lin Ling? Haha, we 4 gods have been through many storms since the era of the gods. Do you think you can sow discord with just a few words? Back then, brother Lei Gong gave his hall to Lin Ling, so in our hearts, Lin Ling is Lei Gong. The Kurishin laughed. That's right. We 4 gods have already discussed it. In the future, His Highness Lei Gong will be our leader. Titanic Crescent God added. Chapter 45-54. But now, not only were the 4 gods and the dragon tribe supporting Lin Ling, even the 10 orthodoxies were on his side. This was unbelievable. All right, all of you can support him. I want to see which one of you can save him. The Green Lotus Immortal Overlord floated up. The green lotus beneath his feet spun slowly and emitted an ancient power. Destiny. This was the power of destiny. This was also the god's stairs, which had the power to dictate the fate of others. Lin Ling, this is your fate. I'll spare your life out of respect for Lei Gong. But it's not too late for you to give up your position as Lei Gong and follow my path. The Green Lotus Immortal Overlord murmured. His aged voice reverberated throughout the void, as if it was the voice of a god. An invisible wave spread towards Lin Ling, as if it wanted to decide Lin Ling's fate. What a powerful god stares. It's probably at the very low level. The eyes of the gods flickered when they sensed the invisible wave of destiny. The Green Lotus Immortal Overlord's strength had always been a mystery. However, the gods guessed that he should be at the intermediate god level. Even if he wasn't, he was still half a step into the intermediate god level. He was stronger than all the late-stage lower gods. Although the difference between lower gods and intermediate gods was only one word. No matter how strong a lower god was, they only had a 10% chance of not losing to an intermediate god. Moreover, that was only not losing. As for winning, it was impossible. This was because a mid-god possessed a mysterious energy. It seemed to be the energy of a god, but it was even more powerful than the energy of a god. For the time being, it was called the energy of a mid-god. This energy was something that a low god would never be able to resist unless they possessed the steps of the gods. Now the Green Lotus Immortal Overlord had made his move. Although there were many gods on Lin Ling's side, no one could stop him. Clear water sky. However, at this moment a cold voice resounded. Then, everyone saw countless water droplets floating in the void without moving. It was very strange. But what was terrifying was that these water droplets actually ignored the Green Lotus Immortal Overlord's stairs of destiny and firmly guarded that side of the world. What's going on? The Green Lotus Immortal Overlord's expression changed slightly. He sensed a power that didn't belong to a lower god. Whoosh! Whoosh! However, as soon as he finished speaking, the water droplets shot over. They looked translucent, but each droplet contained the power of millions of gods. They smashed against the steps of destiny with an earth-shattering force. Lotus Bloom! Green Lotus Immortal Dominator immediately shouted and flicked his finger. The green lotus under him floated out and bloomed in front of him. Boom! However, when the endless water droplets arrived, an explosion that tore apart the void sounded. The green lotus seemed to be floating in a storm, on the verge of collapse. Who are you? At this moment, Green Lotus Immortal Overlord no longer had any doubts. His opponent must be a mid-level god, and also possessed a divine stare. This divine stare also had the power of fate. However, while Green Lotus Immortal Overlord plundered fate, his opponent created it. Whoosh! The endless water droplets were blocked by the lotus, but one of them still flew past the lotus and slashed his face. After that, everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Only a shattered continent spiraled in the distance. It was as if the heavens were falling, and the earth was collapsing. This continent was the Spirit Province. Even though it was just a short clash between the two gods, the Spirit Province collapsed. Who are you? Green Lotus Immortal Overlord roared again. Unfortunately, Lin Ling's side was silent. The gods looked even more shocked than Green Lotus Immortal Overlord. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Who is he? Green Lotus Immortal Overlord couldn't get anything out of him, so he could only stare at Lin Ling and ask. Lin Ling's expression was still cold. Even when Green Lotus Immortal Overlord attacked him, he wasn't moved at all. After hearing Green Lotus Immortal Overlord's words, he said indifferently, "My servant." What? Green Lotus Immortal Overlord opened his mouth wide in disbelief. He thought that Lin Ling was tricking him. The gods were also dumbfounded. Whose servant would be so powerful? Please find a good excuse to fool us. Anger began to surge in their hearts, but they didn't dare to act, because there was a mid-level god hiding on Lin Ling's side. If they acted rashly, they might be killed by him. Underworld Demon Sealer, get over here and accept your death. Seeing that no one dared to speak, Lin Ling looked at the Underworld Demon Sealer. The latter's expression was uncertain. He never expected things to turn out like this. I want to see who still dares to speak for you. Lin Ling spoke again, his voice becoming more domineering as he looked at the Spirit Nation's 4 spiritual gods. On the warship, the 4 spiritual gods were silent. Even Green Lotus Immortal Overlord couldn't defeat him, so he was definitely a mid-level god. How could they dare to speak casually? Damn it! Apart from Lord Ning, the other spiritual gods cursed inwardly. Today, the 4 spiritual gods had come to raise the prestige of the Spirit Nation. However, it seemed that they were only supporting characters. His Majesty Lei Gong was today's main character, especially when a junior from back then was yelling at them, while they couldn't talk back. One could imagine how they felt. You still dare to speak. Seeing that the Spirit Nation didn't dare to speak, Lin Ling looked at Xianling Wuba. Xianling Wuba's expression changed slightly, and he actually hid in the crowd. You again. Lin Ling stared at Ancestor of Lightning Wu Qiangliang. However, the latter didn't swallow his anger like the others. Instead, he glared back at Lin Ling. However, he seemed to have some misgivings, so he only stared at Lin Ling, but didn't dare to speak. If you don't dare to speak, then shut up. Lin Ling retracted his gaze and shouted, reprimanding the other spiritual gods. None of them dared to speak. The entire Jiuzhou was silent. This guy! Kirishin and the others were shocked. Back on the sacred mountain, Lin Ling could only use underhanded means to steal the stone tablet. He didn't even think about fighting the spiritual gods head-on. But now, he was scolding the spiritual gods. I dare to speak, so what? However, at this moment a voice suddenly rang out. Then, a bright light flashed and a figure appeared on the warship. This person was wearing a white robe, and even his skin was as white as snow. It was very strange. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his whole body was pure white. However, it gave people a different kind of beauty. His facial features were handsome, and the corner of his mouth was slightly raised, with a devilish smile. A spiritual god of the Spirit Nation. Countless spiritual gods stared at the spiritual god who suddenly appeared, and their hearts trembled violently. Interesting. Chapter 45-55. Everyone said that an ancient god from the primal chaos realm was coming. But now that he's here, you guys are fighting amongst yourselves. If he comes, you guys will become a laughingstock. After the old man appeared, another expert arrived. This person was holding a jug of wine, and looked sloppy. It was the Taoist of many treasures. As such, the most ancient characters of the 9 prefectures had gathered. The strength of these 3 gods was unfathomable. They were probably at the level of intermediate gods. Even if they weren't, they were still outliers among the lower gods. If one had to make an example, they would be the gods of gods. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Do you want to attack the underworld's devil sealer? What if I don't agree? The Spirit Nation's great god smiled at Lin Ling, and ignored the other 2 gods. The Taoist of many treasures, and the old man didn't seem to be interested in this matter. Their target was the ancient god from the primal chaos realm, so they also smiled and looked at each other. I didn't expect Whitewater Pure Maiden to wake up. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you really surprised me. It seems like there's nothing you can't do. The Spirit Nation's great god spoke again with his eyes locked on one person. It was Whitewater Pure Maiden. Whitewater Pure Maiden was wearing a veil, but her cold eyes were also staring at the Spirit Nation's great god. There was a trace of hatred in the depths of her eyes. However, she knew the Spirit Nation's great god's strength, so she didn't say anything. Is this his true appearance? Lin Ling didn't answer the Spirit Nation's great god. Instead, he stared at the latter's face. This was the first time Lin Ling saw his true appearance. In the past, the Spirit Nation's great god only had a smile on his face, which was very strange. But now all his facial features were present. However, this also meant that the Spirit Nation's great god was stronger than before. The Spirit Nation's great god is also here. It's over, it's over. Countless people also stared at the legendary great god of slaughter. Their bodies and minds trembled, as if they were witnessing the end of the world. Below the ground, Xing Xiyun and the others were also pale. They had not expected that because of them, the ancient great deities would be mobilized, resulting in the peak war between the 9 states void and the spirit nation. Unfortunately, they did not know that the underworld demon sealer was just a fuse. Even without him, Lin Ling and the spirit nation would still have a conflict. The two sides were only using the underworld magic sealer to play a game of chess. Lei Gong Lin Ling, you've ruined my plans time and time again. Now, it's time for you to give me an explanation. Seeing Lin Ling's silence, the great god spoke again. On the battleship he was on, all the spirit nation cultivators looked majestic, as if they had defeated the 4 gods of the 9 states, and were looking down on the entire 9 states. A gust of wind blew past quietly, forming a terrifying pressure that suppressed the entire void, making it difficult for people to breathe. Apart from the 4 great deities, even the immortal spirit hegemony and the green lotus deity, Overlord, could feel the pressure. This was because they knew that although they had helped the underworld demon sealer, it did not mean that they were on the same side as the spirit nation. Therefore, the great god of the spirit nation might not let them go. Most importantly, they noticed that the great god of the spirit nation was even more demonic now. His strength was stronger than when he was on the sacred mountain. I'll give you a chance. Kill everyone in Lei Gong's Grand Hall as proof of your allegiance. Then I'll spare your life on account of your cultivation. The great god of the spirit nation suddenly said with a smile. Although his words sounded cordial, they carried a ruthless and murderous aura. Kill everyone in Lei Gong's Grand Hall? Lin Ling's gaze trembled violently. He knew that with just the experts on his side, they would not be able to fight against the great god of the spirit nation. Even if all of them were mobilized, they would not be able to resist at all. But to let him kill everyone in Lei Gong's Grand Hall? That was obviously impossible. I don't want to say anything from the bottom of my heart. I just want to tell you that I'd rather die in glory than live in dishonor. Lin Ling suddenly pulled out the sword on his back to express his attitude. As for what would happen today, he had already thought about it. Even the worst-case scenario had already been predicted by him. Therefore, he was not very surprised to encounter such a difficult problem today. I knew you would say that. All right, I'll start with you. The great god of the spirit nation licked his lips and said with a smile. However, his eyes were also staring in a certain direction, as if he was waiting for someone to arrive. And that person was the older generation's Lei Gong. He believed that if he attacked Lei Gong's Grand Hall, Lei Gong would appear. And if Lei Gong appeared, it would mean that Lei Gong had joined the spirit nation, and everything was just a pretense. Therefore, he could use Lin Ling and the rest to test the waters. Dong. However, just as the great god of the spirit nation was about to attack, an ancient bell suddenly rang. Moreover, a domineering force enveloped the great god of the spirit nation and constantly destroyed him. What a powerful force! This is the power of the ancient era. The sudden change made the great god of the spirit nation frown. Then he laughed. If I'm not wrong, Lei Gong Lin Ling is behind the scenes. Sheng Yi has returned. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire 9 states exploded. The faces of the gods changed drastically. Back then, at the peak of the sacred mountain, the Donghuang Tai bell was snatched by Sheng Yi. This was something that was obvious to all. However, Sheng Yi had disappeared later on. Therefore, no one was afraid of Lei Gong's Grand Hall anymore. In their opinion, Sheng Yi might have abandoned Lei Gong's Grand Hall. But now, Sheng Yi had returned. That's right, I'm back. The void was torn apart. A figure holding a huge god bell strode towards Lei Gong's Grand Hall. His clothes were ordinary, and he didn't even seem strong. But there was an ancient majesty that bloomed from him. As for that massive divine bell, endless divine runes were spitting out from it, releasing a majesty that didn't belong to this era. Ka. Looking at the great god of the spirit nation, his body was constantly cracking and recovering. He was surrounded by the sound of the bell, which continued to wreak havoc on him. The Donghuang Tai bell is indeed powerful. The great god of the spirit nation was still smiling, but there was a trace of fear in his eyes as he looked deeply at Shengyi, who was walking down. Shengyi's appearance silenced the heavens and the gods. They knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The true strongest god was actually Shengyi. Shengyi greets Lord Lei Gong. Arriving in front of Lin Ling, Shengyi immediately bowed to Lin Ling. I'm envious, seeing that Shengyi was so strong, but he still treated Lin Ling as his lord. The gods were envious. As for the people in Lei Gong's grand hall, they were very excited. Young Lin and the rest kept shooting glances at Shengyi. If not for the fact that there were too many people, they would have punched Shengyi's chest. This guy was finally back. Chapter 45-56. My lord, please forgive me for the delay, my lord. After bowing, Saint Yi straightened his back and smiled at Lin Ling. Although he was respectful to Lin Ling, there was a different aura about him. This was the result of broadening his horizons. Lin Ling also noticed this. He was happy for Saint Yi, because he knew that the Eastern Emperor Tai Bel had something he wanted Lin Ling to do. Therefore, Saint Yi had become stronger, so that he could fulfill his ancestors' wish. What is Saint Yi thinking? Why is the descendant of an ancient god so respectful to Lin Ling? Seeing Saint Yi and Lin Ling talking, the gods felt even more jealous. Saint Yi was someone that even the gods of Spirit Nation didn't dare to face. Such a powerful god actually bowed down to Lei Gong? What a joke! Moreover, what did Lin Ling do to deserve this? Sigh. If I had known that Saint Yi was so powerful, I would have treated him better. This jealousy included the Kirishin and the others. Saint Yi was only a trial taker back then. If they had treated him better back then, the situation would have been different. Without a doubt, with Saint Yi's return, the situation in the 9 states would be settled. Lei Gong Lin Ling, today's humiliation will be avenged in the future. At this moment, the demon sealer of the underworld coldly shouted. He formed an ancient seal with both hands, and a bronze gate appeared behind him and slowly opened. You want to leave? Saint Yi turned around and pointed with a finger. Dong! The huge bronze bell in his other hand immediately let out a rumbling sound, forming an unstoppable force that shot towards the underworld demon sealer. Crash! However, before that force could reach them, the bodies of the underworld cavalry in the sky exploded, transforming into numerous fragments of armor that shot towards the copper bell without any fear of death. Pa! Pa! Of course, the underworld knights couldn't withstand the domineering power of the Eastern Emperor Tai Bel, and were completely destroyed. However, this bought enough time for the demon sealer of the underworld. Haha, Thunderlord Lin Ling. I'm here on behalf of the underworld. You're not qualified to kill me. The demon sealer of the underworld stood in the bronze gate and laughed contemptuously. Is that so? Saint Yi's expression turned cold. He muttered an incantation, and an ancient god emperor appeared behind him. This god's face was somewhat blurry, but it had a domineering aura. Rumble! Almost at the same time, the demon sealer inside the bronze gate trembled. An ancient bronze bell suddenly appeared above his head, and fiercely pressed down on him. The appearance of this ancient bell came without any warning. It was as if no one in this world would be able to escape from the bell, if it wanted to kill them. Underworld god save me! The demon sealer of the underworld subconsciously roared. He had never imagined that Saint Yi's demonic hand would still be able to reach this far after entering the bronze gate. Boom! After the ancient bell sealed the underworld demon sealer, handprints appeared on the surface of the bell. It was as if someone was outside the ancient bell and was constantly slapping at it. Every slap caused the ancient bell to vibrate a bit more. How dare you be so arrogant in my territory? Suddenly, a huge hand appeared from within the bronze gate and grabbed at the ancient bell, as if trying to break it. Dong! When the palm landed on the ancient bell, an unprecedented bell sound exploded. However, when the palm landed on the ancient bell, it couldn't make the ancient bell move even a little bit. Eastern Emperor Tai Bel. A low and hoarse voice came from within the bronze gate. Underworld god. In the distance, Saint Yi looked up and narrowed his eyes. He had guessed the origin of this person. Eastern Emperor Tai's people, how dare you not give me face? I'll remember this. And Lei Gong Lin Ling, how dare you kill my people? I hope you don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, even if Lei Gong is here, I won't give him face. The ancient voice floated out again, filled with anger. As the number one god of the underworld, his strength was naturally stronger than the four great gods of the 9 prefectures. However, the 4 great gods of the 9 prefectures represented the entire 9 prefectures and the myriad of worlds. Therefore, the god of the underworld would usually give them some face. But now, that face no longer existed. We'll meet again. Without waiting for Lin Ling to speak, the bronze gate slowly closed. Seeing this, Sheng Yi frowned. The ancient bell floated back to him. Upon closer inspection, there was nothing beneath the ancient bell. Under the suppression of the Donghuang Tai bell, the powerful demon sealer of the underworld had turned into a pool of blood. What a domineering Eastern Emperor Tai bell! The hearts of many gods instinctively trembled as they gazed at the ancient bell. And they didn't dare to utter a single word now. Killing the demon sealer of the underworld in one move, and forcing underworld god to leave with hatred. This wasn't someone the gods could resist. Great god of Ling Kingdom, do you think you can dominate this void after increasing your strength? At this time, Saint Yi looked at the great god of Ling Kingdom and asked. Around the body of the spirit kingdom's great god, the ancient bell was still ringing, shattering the body of the spirit kingdom's great god. Hearing Saint Yi's words, the great god of Ling Kingdom was still smiling, but the depths of his eyes were quietly flickering. This was because Saint Yi's words had spoken his innermost thoughts. Originally, according to the strength of the 9 province void, after his breakthrough, he would be able to dominate everything. However, there were too many variables. There was another whitewater pure woman who had suddenly awakened. There was another Saint Yi who had returned. This made him feel as if he had surfaced too quickly. He never would have thought that his host body of the world would one day be so afraid of Lei Gong. For a moment he fell silent and only smiled. However, anyone could see that his smile was somewhat forced. Lin Ling, well done. Under a distant mountain, an old man wearing a cloak nodded. He clenched his fists and appeared very excited. He was Lei Gong. He had long received news that the great god of Ling Kingdom was coming and was going to attack the 4 gods. Previously, he had been worried about Lei Gong's great god of Ling Kingdom. However, he didn't expect that under the leadership of Lin Ling, great god of Lei Gong would become so powerful. As for Saint Yi, he had transformed into an ancient great god. With the Donghuang bell in hand, even the great god of Ling Kingdom had to dodge. I never thought that Saint Yi would have such a background. Everything is so surreal. Lei Gong muttered to himself. He was completely relieved about today's situation. The same thing was happening on the other side. A woman was hidden in the crowd, her eyes looking at the gods under the sky. When she finally saw that Lei Gong's great god of Ling Kingdom was fine, she smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders. Lin Ling can't die in the hands of Ling Kingdom. He belongs to me. Chapter 45-57. The entire 9 provinces fell silent because of the rise of the Lei Gong Grand Hall. The cultivators from the 9 provinces all laughed because the spirit kingdom was the will of the world. Their mission was to destroy the world. But now, the Lei Gong Grand Hall was no longer afraid of the spirit kingdom. This meant that the spirit kingdom would no longer be able to destroy the world. No one expected that the 4 great gods' Grand Hall of Lei Gong Grand Hall would grow to such a level under Lin Ling's leadership. There were countless experts under its command. In fact, even Lin Ling was feeling emotional. He didn't expect that one day, the great god of the spirit kingdom would be suppressed to the point where he didn't even dare to talk back. It could be seen that after Sheng Yi's return, his strength had increased again. Back at the Divine Mountain, although Sheng Yi obtained the Eastern Emperor Bell, he couldn't suppress the great god of the spirit kingdom because he wasn't familiar with it. Of course, although the current Sheng Yi was suppressing the great god, Lin Ling still had a feeling that Sheng Yi wasn't strong enough to kill the great god of the spirit kingdom. This could be seen from the great god's appearance. If the great god knew that he was in danger, he would have left long ago instead of smiling in fear. However, Just as the winds and clouds of the 9 prefectures gradually calmed down, an ancient gust of wind suddenly drifted over from afar. The gust of wind was like a huge vortex, and above the gust of wind, several figures stood there indifferently, looking indifferently at the entire 9 prefectures. This gust of wind seemed to have come out of nowhere. It also seemed to have torn through the void and came from another world. When this wild wind surged into the sky, it was as if time and space had been frozen. How lively! All the deities of the void of the 9 prefectures have come. After an indifferent voice, a power similar to the cycle of fate quietly enveloped the entire void of the 9 prefectures. In that instant, everyone discovered that their fates seemed to be controlled by someone. It was as if a large hand had ripped open their souls and was probing the depths of their souls. Their fates were able to see through their origins, past, present, and future. Even the gods were no exception. What a mysterious power! Is it the steps of God? The gods also sensed this power, and they immediately used various means to resist it. However, their divine power and innate talents were all ineffective against it. That power actually gave them a feeling of helplessness. Get out of my way! All of a sudden, a furious roar rang out. The great god of the spirit nation emitted a holy light, and the mysterious power that tried to enter his body was turned into ashes. Great Tao World's End Shackle Technique Scram. The Green Lotus Immortal Dominator seemed to know what kind of spell this was. His eyebrows moved, and the green lotus under him shone with green light, burning the invisible force. The deities all began to resist. Some of them struggled free from the bindings, but some of them didn't. Their faces were all filled with anxiety. Even though they didn't know what that energy was as gods, they naturally didn't want to be controlled by someone else. Scram! On the other side of Lei Gong's hall, Lin Ling was the first to let out an angry roar. The stairs of wisdom poured out like a mirror, scattering all the mysterious forces that were trying to approach. On the other hand, treasure god Nanwufingyu was surrounded by snow and wind in a 5-meter radius, which also blocked the mysterious force. As for pure Lady Bai, the mysterious force naturally couldn't invade her body. Everyone come closer to me! Lin Ling shouted to the crowd. Yu Yu and the others heard him, and immediately came closer. Wrapped in Lin Ling's stares of wisdom, the mysterious force couldn't invade them at all. Who are you? Why are you suddenly attacking us? At this time, someone looked at the people above the gale. This person was Xian Wuba. Because he was still heavily injured, he couldn't break free from the bindings, and a mysterious force entered his body. He burning hearts people. On the gale, a man smiled faintly. He wore a Taoist robe, and his long hair was tied behind his head. He looked ancient and very mysterious. However, his strength was unfathomable. My name is Zhai Xing, and I'm here on orders, the man said again, and then flicked a finger at Xian Wuba. You should be a god from the age of gods, right? Unfortunately, you're still a minor god. Boom! As soon as his voice fell, Xian Wuba's body twitched, and his face twisted. He screamed in pain, as if he was being tortured inhumanly. I'll give you a chance. Join us, Burning Heart, and you'll have a chance to live. The mysterious man called Zhai Xing said with a smile. Bullshit! Xian Wuba shouted angrily, but he was already thinking of retreating in his heart, because the other party was too strong, and his life was in their hands. However, his arrogant words were exchanged for death, and he didn't even have the chance to hesitate. The mysterious people obviously didn't have the patience to talk nonsense with Xian Wuba. After laughing, they waved their hands gently. Ah! Xian Wuba screamed, and his hands hugged his head tightly. Then he gradually quieted down. He floated in the void motionless, as if he was completely dead. Even after his death, his expression was incomparably peaceful, as if he was sleeping. However, this kind of death without knowing why was the scariest. Even the gods didn't know how he died. At this time, everyone's face turned serious. Even the great gods of Spirit Nation squinted their eyes, surprised by the origin of this group of people. Burning Heart. Could it be that they were ancient great gods from the chaotic realm? Only Taoist Duobao had an unfathomable smile on his face. For a moment, he didn't say anything and just watched quietly. There are only 2 missions for this trip. First, to take away all the world wills of the 9 states void. Second, to find a person called Lei Gong Lin Ling. Beside Zhaixing, an old man said indifferently. Compared to Zhaixing, he was more dignified and ruthless, as if the 9 states void were ants to him. Burning heart. At this time, a faint laugh slowly drifted over. It was Lin Ling's voice. Why is only burning heart here? What about White Mountain and Deng Xan? Don't tell me that your burning heart represents the entire White Mountain and Deng Xan. Lin Ling smiled calmly. Last time at the Sacred Mountain, he knew that White Mountain, Burning Heart, and Deng Xan were extremely ancient forces in the chaotic realm. Now only Burning Heart had appeared. Moreover, although he didn't know who was the next host body of the world's will, he seemed to be related to White Mountain and the 3 great divine gates. Could it be that behind the 3 great divine gates, there was actually a host body of the world's will? And it was an ancient primordial chaos god? Who are you? Hearing Lin Ling's words, the old man frowned, and a huge pressure swept over, suppressing Lin Ling. This was the strength of a mid-level deity. Whoosh! However, before the pressure could reach them, the sound of the celestial river could be heard. The rolling river suddenly appeared around the people in the Thunder God Great Hall, blocking the pressure. Chapter 45-58. A middle god? I didn't expect there to be a middle god in the void of the 9 prefectures. Isn't the great god of the spirit nation the most powerful? This change shocked the old man, but Zhaixing suddenly laughed. Don't think that a middle god can protect you. If I, Zhaixing, want you dead, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. This is the great Tao, and no one can surpass it. Is that so? Lin Ling didn't comment and nodded at Sheng Yi. Dong. Sheng Yi didn't say anything. The Eastern Emperor bell in his hand let out a deafening sound. It was as if everything was reborn. Crack. 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 The endless mysterious power that lingered in the void of the 9 prefectures stirred and revealed its true form. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a swastika. Dong. At this moment, the second bell rang, and all the swastikas shattered. The mysterious power hidden in the bodies of countless people in the void of the 9 prefectures began to stir. Dong. When the third bell rang, everyone felt their bodies relax, as if a chronic illness had been cured. The mysterious power that invaded their bodies had vanished. What is this? How can it break the great Tao horizon shackles? The faces of the gods above the gale changed. They didn't expect someone in the void of the 9 prefectures to be able to break their divine ability. For a moment they panicked. Lin Ling saw their changing emotions and sneered. Not only did I break your great Tao horizon shackles, but I also want to capture you. Sheng Yi attack. Dong. A huge ancient bell suddenly appeared above Zhaixing and the others and suppressed them with a domineering force. Eastern Emperor bell. Under the ancient bell, the old man's eyes trembled violently. He finally had a guess, but the more he confirmed it, the more shocked he was. At this moment, they were no longer as arrogant as before. Who are you? The old man stared at Sheng Yi. However, before Sheng Yi could speak, a voice suddenly drifted over. This person is the successor of the Eastern Emperor Tai. His name is Sheng Yi. Not long ago, I heard about his appearance in the Chaos Realm. I didn't expect him to be one of Lei Gong Lin Ling's men. Crackle. In the distance, flames billowed into the sky as rolling clouds of fire surged over. Upon closer inspection, a huge palm leaf fan appeared there. On the palm leaf fan, a large number of gods had their hands behind their backs as they stepped on the palm leaf fan. Lantern Heart. Looking at this group of people, Zhaixing and the others gritted their teeth. It was obvious that although they came from the same divine gate, their relationship was not very good. You can't even do such a small thing well. You're a disgrace to Burning Heart. If it weren't for the fact that we're kindred spirits, I would have taught you a lesson. A domineering voice came from the banana fan. The one who spoke was a Buddha. His brows twitched as the banana fan beneath his feet floated up and swept forward. Crash! Endless raging flames appeared and coiled around the raging winds, as if they wanted to help Zhaixing and the others. However, The Donghuang bell in the sky was indeed a domineering chaos divine artifact. It was able to resist the raging flames. This change made the Buddha frown. He suddenly shouted at Zhai Xing and the others. What are you waiting for? The Donghuang bell is one of the 10 great chaos divine artifacts. Although that kid has rough control over it, with the power of a chaos divine artifact, it's not something we can resist. Alright. Under the raging winds, Zhai Xing and the other experts unleashed their full strength to resist the suppression of the Donghuang bell. However, after the two gods used their full strength, the Donghuang bell seemed to be enraged. It shook violently as an ancient door appeared on the Donghuang bell. It was majestic, as if it had opened the door to the primordial world. This was the door to heaven. An earth-shattering power flowed out of the gate of the heaven realm. It was so terrifying that it could easily destroy the void universe. The Donghuang bell is said to be the most domineering. Those who don't have the bloodline of the Donghuang can't control it. Now that I've seen it, it's truly terrifying. The Buddha's expression turned grave as an arrow appeared in his hand. Although he was reluctant to part with it, he still gritted his teeth and threw it out. Hoi shooting sun arrow. The arrow was slow at first, but in the blink of an eye, its speed exploded as it shot towards the Donghuang bell with endless flames. Dong! The arrow landed on the Donghuang bell, and a deafening sound was heard. Then the arrow shattered, causing the Buddha and the other gods' eyes to tremble violently. The Hoi shooting sun arrow was also an extremely rare treasure. It was also a chaos divine artifact. However, it could not withstand a single blow from the Donghuang bell. It would be a lie if the Buddha said that he was not heartbroken when such a precious treasure was destroyed. After all, the treasure did not belong to him. It was lent to him by a great god. Now that it was destroyed, he did not know how to explain it to his great god. However, the arrow was not useless. At least, it caused the Donghuang bell to tilt a little. The mouth of the bell was not aimed at Zhai Xing and the others. At least, it allowed Zhai Xing and the other experts to escape. Although the mouth of the Donghuang bell was tilted, the door to heaven on the ancient bell was still open. The destructive aura was even more terrifying. Saint Yi retrieved the Donghuang bell immediately. Seeing this, Lin Ling hurriedly said. He had a feeling that Saint Yi could only use 1% of the Donghuang bell's power. Now that the destructive power was about to appear, the Donghuang bell would be out of Saint Yi's control. The final outcome would be the destruction of the void in all of Jiuzhou. In fact, that was indeed the case. At this moment, Saint Yi's face was a little pale, and he could not control the Donghuang bell. However, after hearing Lin Ling's words, he immediately nodded and muttered something. Ancient words formed in front of him. Then, he bit the tip of his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood on those words. The ancient words quietly bloomed with light, causing the Donghuang bell in the distance to sway continuously, as if it was unwilling to give up. In the end, due to the power of Saint Yi's bloodline, the door to heaven slowly closed. Thank goodness, Saint Yi said. With a wave of his right hand, the Donghuang bell flew back to him shakily. How terrifying. How could the Donghuang Tai allow that kid to control such a forbidden item? It's a pity that the Donghuang bell is not controlled by the Donghuang royal bloodline. Otherwise, I would have already taken it. The Buddha said enviously after witnessing the power of the Donghuang bell. When he thought about how he had wasted a chaos divine artifact, his heart bled again. There were a total of 10 sun shooting arrows, and the Heart of Lanterns only had 2. Now he had destroyed one of them. According to legend, these descendants could easily kill any intermediate celestial with their sun-shooting arrows. If they were paired with Ho Yi's sun-shooting bow, they could even kill an upper celestial. If he had known that the Donghuang bell was so powerful, he would not have helped the Heart of Lanterns. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Then, the Buddha glared at Lin Ling, as if he wanted to tear Lin Ling into pieces. Chapter 45-59. The Buddha has decreed that we must take away Lei Gong Lin Ling today no matter what. Just as they were dumbfounded, more experts arrived in the distant sky. This time, the experts who appeared were on foot, but their auras were monstrous. The person in the lead was wearing battle armor, and he seemed to be stronger than the Buddha. because the Buddha's expression changed when he saw this person. The man in divine armor held a pagoda in his hand, looking majestic and awe-inspiring. Baishan's men, the Buddha and Jiaxing said at the same time. Baishan, Burning Heart, and Deng Xian were all here for Lin Ling. This news shocked all the gods in the void of the 9 states. They couldn't understand how a mere Lin Ling could attract the attention of the ancient great gods of the chaos realm. Could it be that Lin Ling had a powerful background? On the contrary, Lin Ling was not surprised by this scene. Previously, there were experts from the chaotic realm who wanted to capture him on the divine mountain. Now that the 3 divine gates had appeared together, this was a very normal thing. Of course, Lin Ling wasn't worried. In his opinion, if the ancient great gods of the chaos realm wanted to capture him, there would be other ancient great gods who would help him. Just like in the country of eternity, there was a mysterious ancient great god who helped him through a life and death crisis. With the help of Xian and Vi of the 9 heavens, Lin Ling knew that he, Lin Ling, was not a nameless person in the chaos realm. Sir, don't worry, there will be ancient great beasts to help you. While Lin Ling was thinking, Sheng Yi secretly transmitted a message to Lin Ling. Lin Ling nodded. Sheng Yi seemed to have left for the chaos realm, and he probably knew a lot of things. Lin Ling suddenly felt that Sheng Yi still treated him as an adult. One was because of old friendship, and the other was because someone had asked him to help him, just like Xian and Vi of the 9 heavens. Baishan, Burning Heart, and Deng Xian are all bullshit to me. Putting away his thoughts, Lin Ling looked at Baishan and the other experts with contempt. His expression was full of disdain. This guy, is he crazy? Upon hearing Lin Ling's torrent of abuse, all the gods were flabbergasted. Anyone could see that the gods of Baishan and the others could wipe out gods as easily as flipping their hands. Furthermore, they were from the primal chaos world, so how dare a trifling Lin Ling insult them? Lin Ling, as expected of Lei Gong. Just the thought of his violent temper was frightening. You're courting death. As expected, Baishan and the other elites were enraged. Any one of them could obliterate the entire Great Hall of Lei Gong, not to mention so many of them. Although the kid who controlled the Donghuang Bell was also very powerful, they could tell that it was difficult for the kid to control the Donghuang Bell now. Don't you feel ashamed? They thought that they were from the primal chaos realm and could strut around in the void of the 9 prefectures. But what happened in the end? None of us died. Instead, your treasures were destroyed, and you're in such a sorry state. Are you guys invited here by the primal chaos realm to make fun of you? Lin Ling said again. Since there would be experts coming out sooner or later, there was no need for him to be afraid. He could scold them as much as he wanted to let them know that he, Lin Ling, was not that easy to catch. What a foul mouth. Lin Ling's words were not only vicious, but they also hit the nail on the head. Do you really think that I won't dare to kill you? The Buddha from the lamp heart was the most furious. Among the 3 divine gates, he had paid the greatest price. Even the Hou-Yi sun-shooting arrow was destroyed. Fan, come. He waved his right hand, and the flaming fan floated over. He looked at Lin Ling and swept it fiercely. Incomparably terrifying divine energy surged over. There were at least millions of them. This fan was capable of burning the heavens and the earth. Haha, I thought you were strong. This young master is standing right here. Let's see if you can kill me. Facing the terrifying divine energy of millions of divine energy, Lin Ling was secretly shocked, but he was not afraid. Yenefo, don't kill him. After the Buddha attacked, Baishan and Burned Heart's people anxiously shouted. Although they hated Lin Ling to death, they still remembered the Buddha's order. They had to bring back Lin Ling alive. Now that the Buddha was angry, he might even kill Lin Ling. This guy really wants to see the world in chaos. Whitewater Pure Maiden shook her head as she stared at the incoming flames. At this moment, she seemed to have a deeper understanding of Lin Ling. It turned out that this guy's arrogance towards her wasn't targeted at her, but rather, this guy was arrogant towards everyone. One had to know that there was more than one mid-celestial on the other side. There were 2 who were even stronger than her. If they really fought, she and Sheng Yi would not be able to protect Lin Ling, especially Sheng Yi, who was obviously exhausted and could not control the Donghuang Bell. Bai Shui took a step forward. Her robe fluttered, and she lightly slapped out with her palm. The water of the heavenly river overflowed, mixed with terrifying divine energy, and turned into a huge water god. This water god was incomparably strong, and its long hair was like a raging river. It was imposing without being angry, and it also slapped out with its palm. Rumble. As if the absolute power of water and fire collided, the entire void continued to explode. After the water and fire merged, terrifying steam turned into a mushroom cloud that soared into the sky. The temperature was so terrifying that even a lower celestial would be vaporized if they got close. Stinking woman, you have some skills. Wait for me to blow your heart out. The Buddha roared, and with both hands holding the huge fan, he swept it fiercely. As if the wind was supported by the fire, flames rushed through the heavenly river and enveloped Bai Shui's body, burning continuously. What a powerful talent. She's at least a second-grade mid-celestial. Bai Shui's eyes were solemn. A curtain of water flowed down from her body, constantly resisting the flames outside her body. It was obvious that she was having a hard time resisting the flames. However, in the eyes of the gods, they were secretly feeling lucky for Lin Ling. If not for Bai Shui by his side, Lin Ling would definitely not be able to escape death by now. Slaves, damn it. I want to have a dozen slaves like this. Thinking of how Lin Ling addressed Bai Shui as Bai Shui's pure maiden, the gods were envious. Today, Lin Ling did not show any strength at all. At most, he exchanged a blow with Patriarch Bull Demon, and all the external enemies were either dealt with by the slaves. How could they not be envious? Let's see how you block another move. The Buddha saw that Bai Shui was having a hard time resisting and sneered. He first stared at Lin Ling, wanting to see Lin Ling's panicked and regretful expression. However, it did not matter if he did not see it. Who knew that Lin Ling was not flustered at all? Instead, he had his hands behind his back with a calm expression. Die for me. The Buddha was furious. His hands madly waved the fan. Now, he wanted to see how Lin Ling blocked it. Hee Lin Ling, did you know that I would come? You're so calm. You really think I'm a hired thug? At this moment, a powerhouse finally arrived. A sword slashed down. The light was resplendent. It did not seem to be terrifying, but it revealed its sharpness and actually cut the ferocious fan in half. In the blink of an eye, beside the Buddha, a handsome man in a Taoist robe held a sword with one hand and hung it over the Buddha's neck. Chapter 4560. When the man appeared, all the gods fell silent. This was because none of them had sensed his arrival. Even the pagoda-bearing general hadn't sensed his arrival. As for the Buddha whose fan had been cut in half, his eyes were trembling. Compared to the others, he was more aware of the strength of the man in front of him. For a moment, the void of the 9 provinces seemed to churn with monstrous waves. Among everyone, only Lin Ling recognized the man because he was the Taoist pure son he had met once in the Kingdom of Eternity. He was also known as the Sword Ancestor, Lu Dongbin. During the era of the gods, he was known as Heavenly Venerate Wondrous Tao. Lin Ling, long time no see. However, you should have guessed that an ancient god would come, right? That's why you seem so calm. The man's long hair fluttered elegantly as he looked at Lin Ling with a faint smile. I was only guessing. If no savior had come, I wouldn't have been able to escape death. Lin Ling said helplessly. However, Taoist Pure Sun shook his head because he didn't believe Lin Ling's words. This was because Lin Ling had been helped several times by the ancient gods of the primal chaos realm. Unless Lin Ling was an idiot, how could he not have noticed? Therefore, Lin Ling must have guessed that an ancient god would come to the primal chaos realm this time. In that case, the person who helped Lin Ling would definitely come as well. So he is the true ancient god. Watching Lin Ling and the man talk, the various gods had their own guesses. Today had been full of twists and turns. In the end, the ancient god turned out to be a sword immortal who seemed ordinary, but had a sharp edge. Taoist Pure Sun. At the same time, the pagoda-bearing general also spoke in a low voice. His expression became more solemn. Clearly, he recognized the former and knew how powerful he was. Since the birth of the will of the world, The age of gods has experienced 3 great calamities. Under these 3 great calamities, there are not many gods left from the ancient era. Especially after the twilight of the gods, only 10% of the gods were left. Now most of them are in the primal chaos realm. I am very surprised that the successor of the protector of the cult has joined the Buddha god's side. Taoist Pure Sun said as he looked at the tower-bearing general. Be it Buddhism or Taoism, they will all return to the same place. The general who carried the pagoda laughed. Taoist Pure Sun nodded and continued. I only have one purpose in coming here today. Now that the primal chaos realm is being devoured day by day, the storm of the world consciousness is making a comeback. Our position is in jeopardy, so I want to take them in and see if there's any chance of turning things around. Are they qualified? Speaking of that place, General Tower's expression changed. He frowned and said, You should know that not just anyone is qualified to enter that place. It takes a lot of effort to enter. Therefore, those who can enter must have absolute qualifications. Even I don't have such qualifications. Guh. If I say they do, then they do. Taoist Pure Sun withdrew his sword and smiled. You only represent the people behind you. It doesn't mean that the entire chaos realm will agree. The tower-bearing general snorted coldly. I know that. But what if I use the key to the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace to exchange for it? Taoist Pure Sun suddenly said something that would shock everyone to death. The key to the 8th level of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. The pagoda-bearing general's eyes narrowed, and so did Buddha and Star-Plucking Star. They all looked at Taoist Pure Sun, as if to ask how he knew the key to the 8th level. If you agree, I have a way to take out the key. You should know that this key only appears in the void of the 9 continents. The big shots of the chaos realm can't enter the void of the 9 continents, so they can't obtain the key. Now that I'm taking the initiative to hand it over, I'm sure the big shots behind you will be very happy. They'll help me this time. Taoist Pure Sun said again. At this time, the eyes of the generals flickered as if they were contemplating. Meanwhile, Lin Ling and the others were listening quietly. They had heard some news. The primal chaos realm was not as good as they had imagined. It was chaotic there, as if there was a powerful force devouring the entire primal chaos realm. All the gods were powerless to protect themselves. Perhaps this was the reason why the chaos realm had its sights set on the void of the 9 continents. However, for some unknown reason, the primordial beasts of the chaos realm couldn't casually enter the void of the 9 continents. It could be assumed that Taoist Pure Sun's group had spent a lot of effort to come here. After 3 waves of calamity, only 10% of the gods were left. Lin Ling thought. He didn't expect the chaos realm's calamity to be even greater than the void of the 9 continents. I agree on behalf of Bai Shan, but there are 2 conditions. First, we have to take away Lei Gong Lin Ling. Second, we have to bring back all the world wills in the void of the 9 continents. At this moment, General Toda finally came to a decision. I agree on behalf of Burning Heart. I agree on behalf of Deng Xian. Buddha and Jiaxing nodded as well. Hehe, we can't agree to either of these conditions. Right now, all the gods in the chaos realm are paying attention to the world wills. If we leave them in the void of the 9 continents, we can still observe their every move. If we bring them back to the chaos realm, the consequences will be unimaginable. If the world wills are devoured, the storm will be even more terrifying. Taoist Pure Sun firmly refused. Damn it. General Tower and the others cursed inwardly. Chapter 4561. Since that's the case, I'll agree on behalf of my side. Now that all of you have agreed, we still need the other primordial beasts to agree. Fortunately, all of them agreed before I came here. In the end, only you guys are left. Taoist Pure Sun nodded and walked towards Lin Ling's side. Lin Ling, I want all of you to enter a secret realm. This secret realm has existed since the beginning of the world. It's one of the primordial chaos, but when the calamity of the worlds will arrived, it collapsed and was maintained by the life force of a primordial god. In the end, that primordial god fused with the secret realm. This secret realm is of great importance, and none of you can miss it. Taoist Pure Sun looked at Lin Ling's group and said, "However, it's very difficult to enter because that primordial beast is already asleep. If you want to enter, you'll need the power of several primordial gods to open it. Once you enter, you'll be able to enter and exit as you please. Once you enter, the realm will recognize you. So the qualification to enter is extremely precious. Since the ancient era, countless descendants of gods have entered." The eyes of Lin Ling's group flickered at Taoist Pure Sun's words. A secret realm that had existed since the ancient era, controlled by a primordial beast? Most importantly, countless descendants of gods had entered the secret realm until now. Could it be that Taoist Pure Sun wanted them to enter, so that they could increase their strength? "What's the name of this secret realm?" Lin Ling immediately asked. "The Tao realm." Taoist Pure Sun took a deep breath and said solemnly. It was clear that this secret realm was more mysterious than they had imagined. "Okay, I agree." Lin Ling nodded and looked at Yu Yu's group. Yu Yu's group nodded as well. This time, the Tao realm was open because of the key to the 8th floor of the 8 gods' celestial palace. You must seize this opportunity and enter as many people as you can. There are no conditions for this. The Tao realm only restricts those from the primordial chaos, such as me and them. Taoist Pure Sun continued as he stared at Lin Ling, his eyes flickering. However, Lin Ling heard Taoist Pure Sun's voice. "Lin Ling, the Tao realm also has the world's will. You must be careful. Bai Shan's group is a bit strange. You must be careful of them as well." Lin Ling's expression didn't change as he quietly replied, "Although I don't know why they're looking for me, I have a feeling that they're related to the world's will." "What?" Taoist Pure Sun was astonished. "Why are you so sure?" He asked solemnly. "Back when I was at the foot of the sacred mountain, I obtained the stone tablet that was the host of the world will. However, when I wanted to investigate it, a powerful force destroyed the stone tablet. Before the stone tablet was destroyed, I vaguely saw the words White Mountain. This was interpreted by the great gods of the spirit nation." "So that's how it is." Taoist Pure Sun's eyes flickered with an even deeper graveness as he continued. "The master behind the 3 divine gates is no small matter. Without any evidence, we don't dare to rashly investigate. Don't tell anyone else about this. I can only tell you that the primordial chaos is currently in the middle of a storm, being swept by the storm of the world will. The ancient giant gods are fighting against it. This has caused them to be unable to leave. However, one of the ancient giant gods told us that he saw the future, and you are the key to it. This is also the reason why we're helping you. Although we don't know what demonic power you have to make that primordial god so certain. This is all we know. However, you said that the 3 divine gates of White Mountain are related to the world's will. Perhaps they have sensed something and wanted to take you away." Lin Ling inwardly nodded at Taoist Pure Sun's words. Only now did he know how terrifying the world's will host was. The great god of Spirit Nation was only a strand of hair. The powerful world's will host had already invaded the ancient era. "Right. I have the key to the 8th floor of the 8 gods' celestial palace. Should I give it to them?" Lin Ling said in a low voice. "What? You also have a key?" Taoist Pure Sun was shocked once more. The key he handed over before was clearly not Lin Ling's, but he immediately shook his head. "No need. The 8th floor of the 8 gods' celestial palace has a stone tablet recording the next worlds will host. This matter is of great importance. If we can find out who the host is, we can completely control it. As for the key you left behind, I reckon it's different from the other key. The key I'm talking about came from Taoist's myriad treasures." "Okay," Lin Ling replied. He didn't expect that although the primordial god didn't interfere, he had been controlling the world's will hosts all this time, including the great god of Spirit Nation. "Okay, prepare the people. Remember, your strength must reach the realm of gods. After entering, if you can't hold on, you can immediately withdraw from the Tao realm and enter again after your strength has increased." Taoist Pure Sun finally said this before slowly walking towards General Tower Bearing and the others. Although they were quietly waiting, they seemed to be secretly chatting. Taoist Pure Sun arrived in front of them and nodded. He then looked at Taoist's myriad treasures and said, "Taoist myriad treasures, hand over your key." "Hee hee," With so many ancient great gods here, I don't dare to disobey. Taoist's myriad treasures have been quietly waiting. He smiled and waved his right hand. A ray of light fell into Taoist Pure Sun's hand and turned into a pentagram-like key. Lin Ling carefully looked at it and confirmed that it was different from the key he had. But then, he glanced at Taoist's myriad treasures and suddenly had a feeling that Taoist's myriad treasures seemed to have foreseen this scene long ago. As such, he felt that Taoist's myriad treasures was even more mysterious. Looking at Taoist's Pure Sun, he immediately made a few copies of the key and threw them to General Tower Bearing and the others. Let's begin. General Tower Bearing took the key and nodded. At the same time, a huge whirlpool began to appear in the sky. Wind and clouds surged, and it was very terrifying. The whirlpool was so big that it seemed to cover the entire sky. As the ferocious dark clouds churned, it gave people the feeling that they were going to devour the entire universe. Even though the vortex didn't emit any sound, both the gods and the cultivators felt their hearts rumble at this moment, and a wave of majestic might silently envelop their entire bodies. What kind of power is this? Someone muttered, his voice trembling. Unfortunately, no one answered him. They only stared at the sky. Although they were afraid, they were unwilling to part with their eyes. It was as if the whirlpool had a magical power that attracted thousands of gazes. Chapter 4562. A new wave of energy arrived. It was as if a pair of large hands were tearing apart the vortex, causing the originally quiet vortex to start churning once again. The vortex also became bigger and bigger, as if it was a heavenly eye. Plop, plop. Although the vortex was still silent, the rumbling in people's hearts grew louder. Open the way. At this time, another voice sounded. It was dignified and divine. The vortex in the sky grew bigger, and the rolling sea of clouds seemed to have no end. Puff! The warriors of the 9 states began to vomit blood and retreat with pale faces. They tried to leave this terrifying scene, but no matter where they went, they could not escape the huge vortex in the sky. Open the way. But at this time another voice sounded. Open the way. Next, several voices sounded in succession. At this moment, those who did not have the strength of a god vomited blood and retreated with pale faces. However, although this kind of pressure was enormous, it was not life-threatening. In fact, under this kind of pressure, some cultivators were even able to smoothly break through to the next realm. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to withstand the pressure of the heavenly Tao. Rumble. When the huge vortex stopped growing, a rumbling sound was finally heard. Endless gales blew down from the sky. If one were to stand in the myriad worlds at this moment, they would be horrified to find that a huge eye had appeared in the sky above the 9 states. Lin Ling, go in. Taoist Pure Sun's voice came from the gale. Remember, the moment you enter the Tao realm, you will also be an ancient god. Okay. Lin Ling looked at the people behind him and did not say anything else. Whoever wanted to enter would follow. He took the lead and shot toward the vortex in the sky. From afar, it looked like an arrow shooting toward the Tao realm. But soon, a beautiful tail appeared behind him. It was the people of Lei Gong's palace. Can we also enter the Tao realm? The eyes of the Kirishin and the others flickered. Seeing Taoist Pure Sun nod, they led the other gods and shot toward the vortex in the sky. Behind them, the eyes of the other gods flickered, and they also rushed toward the sky. They did not want to miss this ancient opportunity, because they had also heard Taoist Pure Sun say that after entering the Tao realm, they would also be ancient gods. Humph. The Spirit Nation Great God let out a cold snort. He didn't enter but left angrily. He had a feeling that he couldn't enter the Tao realm. Great God of Spirit Nation, it's not hard for you to enter. But do you dare? Taoist Pure Sun suddenly laughed as he watched the God of the Spirit Kingdom leave. However, the God of the Spirit Kingdom sneered at Taoist Pure Sun and didn't enter in the end. Cunning indeed. The Taoist narrowed his eyes. With his strength, he could kill this god on the spot, but he didn't do so because he had a feeling that this god wouldn't die. This was only an avatar left behind. Moreover, before he came here, the ancient giant god had also told him that the great god of Spirit Kingdom could not die yet. This was because if he died, it would be another world will host that would devour him, and that world will host would become even stronger. However, even though the great god didn't enter, the Spirit Kingdom's warship majestically soared into the sky. In the beginning, the four spirit gods were afraid that Taoist pure sun would stop them. However, to their surprise, the Taoist only smiled and didn't stop them at all. This allowed them to no longer have any misgivings and directly soared into the sky. Although the Tao realm is a place of fortune, it is also a place of danger. Perhaps the Spirit Kingdom will die even faster if they enter. They didn't see Taoist pure sun smile, and he secretly said to himself, "Come, let's go as well." More and more gods soared into the sky. Of course, there was no lack of martial artists who wanted to reach the heavens in a single step. Unfortunately, before they could even get close to the huge vortex, the gales tore them apart. Sure enough, the minimum requirement to enter the Tao realm was to be a god. Moreover, even at this level, it was still very difficult because the closer they got to the vortex, the more ancient power rushed over, as if it wanted to tear them apart. Of course, there were many of them. After joining forces, they were able to stop the terrifying vortex. Lin Ling was in the lead, so the pressure he faced became even greater. However, what shocked Lin Ling was that he didn't need to fuse with his innate talents. When the gale-like power rushed over, it seemed to have encountered a force inside his body and immediately weakened by a lot. It was an innate talent. He couldn't help but look back and found that outside of pure maiden Bai, treasure god Nam Wufingyu and the others, as long as they had intermediate god talents, the pressure was continuously weakening. "You come close to me," Lin Ling then said to the people behind him. Yu and the others didn't have the talent of a medium god, while Lin Ling had the talent of several medium gods. Thus he was able to block those storms for them. "Lord Lei Gong, I can't go in." At this time, an unwilling voice came from Lei Gong's palace. Upon closer inspection, many experts were stopped. If they took another step forward, they would immediately be in danger. "You guys go back first." Seeing this, Lin Ling could only say regretfully, many people were eliminated in Lei Gong's palace, but so were those below the god level. They hovered in the sky, looking at those who were getting closer and closer to the vortex, their eyes full of envy and unwillingness. They had heard that the opening of the Tao realm required the power of several ancient gods. If they missed this chance, they would never have another chance in their lives. Moreover, if they were lucky enough to enter the Tao realm, they could come out and leave at any time. "All right, we're going in." Lin Ling, who was closest to the giant vortex, looked up at the sky, then said to Yu and the others. At this moment, Lin Ling's heart was filled with joy and excitement, as if he had completely stepped into the most ancient world of gods. Yu and the others nodded excitedly. They had finally reached the end of the entire era, the end of the entire universe. Whoosh! Under Lin Ling's lead, the few of them disappeared into the rolling vortex, as if sinking into mud. Behind them, treasure god Nam Wufingyu and the others were also very excited as they shot into the vortex. From afar, the scene was incomparably spectacular. Countless gods were pursuing the great Tao of the universe, rushing into the Tao realm like a carp crossing a river. From this moment on, the strongest gods of the entire void universe have all disappeared. The warriors in the distance sighed as they looked at the giant vortex. Then, they also looked forward to seeing how the gods would change after the return of the Tao realm. Would they really have the strength of ancient gods? It's finally begun. Now, she had finally found that feeling of the primordial era. "Let's go down," Lin Ling said to everyone. However, he also sensed that there were many experts hidden in the dense forest below, and those experts must be the gods of the primordial era. Bang bang bang. However, just as they were about to charge down, all of them suddenly collided with a barrier, and it was difficult for them to advance any further. "What's going on?" The young Qilin was shocked and tried again, but it was still blocked there. Ha ha ha. At the same time, a lot of laughter came from the dense forest below. It's been a long time since someone came. I wonder which ancient great god's successor they are. I don't know. These people are very unfamiliar. The last time I returned to the Chaos Realm, I saw that the Chaos Realm was being swept by the storm of the world will, causing more and more successors to enter the Tao Realm. These people might be sent by some divine sects. Now, if you want to enter the Tao Realm, you have to join forces with several ancient great gods. It's not as good as it used to be. These people who can enter here are probably not simple. Hee. Whether or not they can enter depends on their abilities. Calm voices sounded from the ground. Under the vast and endless dense forest, countless gods stood there, looking at the sky. They were dressed differently. Some were simple, and some were wearing armor. They looked like gods from several eras. They stared at the sky with disdain, although they knew that those who could enter the Tao Realm must have a strong background. Compared to ancient great gods like them, they were weak in every aspect. Other things aside, just the fact that they had cultivated here for tens of millions of years was enough to surpass this batch of newcomers. There's a good show to watch. These people can't enter. A man with a sword on his back smiled faintly. He was wearing a Taoist robe, a Taoist hat, and a peachwood sword at his waist. He was very mysterious. Among that group, there are a few who are not weak. The rest should be followers. On the other side, a few beautiful women stood under a tree. They held flower petals in their hands and gently sniffed them. Then they said, "Those who can enter here are not strong, but their backgrounds are definitely not simple. If they are not the reincarnation of ancient great gods, then they are the descendants of ancient great gods. Generally speaking, most of them are gods who died after the 3 apocalyptic catastrophes. Of course, there are some exceptions who did not participate in the War of the Worlds back then. Ancient great gods can still enter. No matter what, these people are newcomers. They are not strong. These women were not old. One of them was even 15 or 16 years old. However, the ancient great gods nearby did not dare to underestimate them, because everyone knew that these 7 women were not weak. It was said that in their previous lives, they were the 7 fairies of the heavenly lake. Among these 7 beautiful women, 3 of them were reincarnations, and the remaining 4 were descendants. Although the Tao realm does not require great strength to enter, it would be a joke if you can't even enter the Tao realm. The man with the peachwood sword at his waist at the beginning said again. Suddenly, an older beauty among the 7 beautiful women laughed and said, "Maoshan, immortal ancestor, don't tell me you want to defeat them and get a Tao realm fragment. Isn't that what you guys are thinking too?" The man turned his head to look at the 7 of them. According to the rules of the Tao realm, any newcomer that arrives can be defeated by the older generation in exchange for some Tao realm fragments. Of course, if we can help the newcomer enter the Tao realm, we will obtain more Tao realm fragments, and these Tao realm fragments are. This fragment is formed by an ancient great god and a Tao realm cultivator. It is extremely rare. You don't want to miss it, right? Humph. The woman snorted and said, "Although we don't get many Tao realm fragments, I think there are many ancient great gods who are eyeing the newcomers covetously. Moreover, I think that the ancient great gods work together to open the Tao realm, so there are probably many gods who entered this time." Chapter 4564. In the Leigong Hall, other than Lin Ling and a few others, no one had noticed the gods in the forest. "What's going on? Second brother, why can't we enter?" Sakura had tried a few times, but he still couldn't enter. He couldn't help but worry. "Lin Ling, quickly think of a way." Young Master Yao looked at Lin Ling and said. Not only had Lin Ling surpassed him, but he was also more knowledgeable than him. He was the only pillar of support in the Leigong Hall. Lin Ling looked at Pure Maiden Bai, Treasure God Nanwufengyu, and even the giant ghost. However, the 3 of them shook their heads. They couldn't understand this strange scene, because they had used all kinds of methods, but they couldn't find anything. Lin Ling also used his soul force to investigate. To his surprise, he couldn't find anything either. Everyone spread out and look. Maybe there's an entrance. After a while, Lin Ling ordered everyone. Although they had just entered the Tao realm, it was inevitable that they would encounter danger. However, it seemed that there were some taboos blocking them. This meant that the danger would also be blocked. Everyone nodded and spread out to search. Pure Maiden Bai, Treasure God Namwufingyu, we have 2 hours as the time limit. Go as far as you can, and see if you can find the entrance. After 2 hours, no matter what happens, everyone must come back. Lin Ling said to Pure Maiden Bai and the others. Okay. Pure Maiden Bai and the others nodded. Then, Lin Ling also sped up and dashed in one of the directions. After an hour, Lin Ling rushed out of the island and hovered in the sky. Below him was a rolling yellow river. Roar! Suddenly, a huge crocodile rushed out from the river and bit at Lin Ling. Looking at its momentum, even Lin Ling wouldn't be able to resist it with all his strength. Not only was this ancient crocodile huge, but its skin was also filled with sharp bumps. Although its godly energy did not seem strong, what was terrifying was its fleshly body. With Lin Ling's many years of experience in cultivating his fleshly body, this ancient crocodile's fleshly body had reached the power of 50 million worlds. However, just as the giant mouth was about to swallow Lin Ling, an invisible force in the sky stopped the giant crocodile. Ka. Even when the giant crocodile bit the sky, its teeth, which were as hard as mountains, were all shattered. When he looked at the sky again, he found that it was completely unaffected. Just as I expected, any danger is blocked. However, this primordial giant crocodile is too ferocious. I'm afraid it has a lifespan of tens of millions of years. Lin Ling secretly wiped his sweat and continued forward. Roar! At this moment, another giant crocodile appeared. Without a doubt, it was blocked by the mysterious force again. Next, more and more giant crocodiles rushed out of the water, stirring up the wind and clouds. It was hard to imagine that if Lin Ling did not have the mysterious force blocking his feet, he would definitely be swallowed alive. This place is so big. It's just a river around the island. It looks small from the sky, but if you want to cross this river, you will need to spend a lot of time. Lin Ling said with a frown as he gradually got used to the giant crocodile under his feet. After calculating the time, he estimated that he would only be able to walk out of the river in an hour. He did not think that he would be able to find any entrance. It seems that I have to go to the square prison and ask. After shaking his head, Lin Ling looked around. Seeing that there was no one around, he immediately took out the square stone tablet. Do any of you know the Dao realm? After entering the prison, Lin Ling said to all the prisoners. The square prison was silent for a moment. Then one by one, the prisoners came to the front of the prison and looked at Lin Ling. Sir, if you know the Dao realm, you will let us out. A devil-like prisoner laughed and said, You guessed it right. Lin Ling sneered and formed a seal with both hands. Then crackling sounds came from the cell. The great calamity of the prison had arrived. The insufferably arrogant demonic god was wreaked havoc until he spat out green smoke. Sir, you are ruthless. I only said one sentence. Do you want to serve me with the great calamity? The demon god cried and said. He was a great god from ancient times, but after being imprisoned, his life was worse than a dog's. Whoever says more nonsense will end up like him. Lin Ling ignored him and continued to say coldly. All the prisoners did not dare to talk nonsense. Sir, I know. I know too. Suddenly, an aged voice rang out. It came from the top floor of the prison, and the prisoners locked up there, whether it was strength or background, were even more terrifying. Lin Ling immediately went upstairs and pointed at an old man. This old man had a head of red hair. According to the records, he was called the Rainbow Cloud Ancestor. He was a primordial giant god from ancient times. He was imprisoned because he lost a great battle with another primordial giant god. What do you want? Lin Ling looked at the old man and asked. Sir, please find me a successor. He is called the Rainbow Cloud Ancestor. I haven't seen him for many years, and I miss him. The old man said with a smile. That's all? Lin Ling said coldly. That's all, that's all. As long as the child knows that I am still alive, it will be enough. Let him not worry about me too much. The old man nodded. Child, isn't he called the Rainbow Cloud Ancestor? He is already a Rainbow Cloud Ancestor. How can he be a child? Lin Ling frowned. Although he is called Rainbow Cloud Ancestor, he is still a child in my eyes. When he was young, I was beside the river Styx. The rainbow cloud ancestor smiled and said with nostalgia, "Stop, stop, stop." Lin Ling had to interrupt him and said with a frown, "Let me ask you, after entering the Tao realm, why is there a force stopping us from entering?" "Sir, that is the primordial aura," the rainbow cloud ancestor explained. "This is the strand of primordial aura that did not dissipate after the primordial world was formed. Later on, it was refined by an ancient giant god and merged with the Tao realm. In order to open the primordial aura, one needs to have the body of a mid-god divine embryo and activate their talent. If one has the ability to activate the primordial aura, the door will open. Of course, if one has a mid-god divine embryo or above, one person will be enough. Or if 10 mid-gods work together, even if it is just a low-god divine embryo, they will be able to open the primordial aura." "I see." Lin Ling nodded. "The primordial aura is formless and colorless. It can only be seen by one's talent. As for how to use it, I can give you some pointers." After the rainbow cloud ancestor finished speaking, he stretched out his right hand, and a ball of light floated out of the cell. Lin Ling caught it and scanned it with his soul force. Immediately, he knew how to use the divine embryo to check the primordial aura. "Where is your disciple, the rainbow cloud ancestor?" Lin Ling asked. "That child." At the mention of the rainbow cloud ancestor, the old man's face turned doting and his eyes were filled with nostalgia. "Stop, stop, stop. I didn't hear you talking about the past. Get to the point." Seeing that the old man was going to nag again, Lin Ling stopped him immediately. He imagined the two old men cherishing each other. One of them looked at the other with doting eyes and called him child with tears in his eyes. Lin Ling felt goosebumps all over his body. Chapter 4565. No wonder you came to me on your own initiative. You are in the Tao realm. But according to the years, your ancestor Red Cloud should be from the same era as you. How could he enter the Tao realm? Lin Ling touched his chin and asked curiously, "Haha, that child did not participate in the War of the World will. So the Tao realm did not stop him from entering." The ancestor laughed. "But you must be careful. The Tao realm gathers the ancient gods of 3 eras. If you do not have the corresponding strength, it will be difficult for you to enter the Tao realm. By the way, gods won't die in the Tao realm." "Will not die?" Lin Ling was shocked. The Tao realm is a place for the reincarnated gods of ancient times to grow up. Of course, the ancient gods wouldn't let the gods perish. Of course, that's only relative. It's said that gods only have 3 chances. When they are on the brink of death, the Tao light will protect them, and they can save their life. However, I've heard that some gods can only save their lives 4 times, while some can only save their lives 5 times. Moreover, for ancient gods who have died many times, if we use the previous method to stimulate their talents, we can roughly see it clearly. The old man continued. So it is the help of the Tao realm. Lin Ling finally understood. He felt strange. How could there be an immortal god? He asked again. Then in the Tao realm, how did the ancient gods grow? Tao realm shard. Everyone who enters the Tao realm has a Taoist medallion, which is a Taoist medallion formed from primordial chaos. You can use the Taoist medallion to trade treasures with people in the Tao realm. Furthermore, the Taoist medallion contains instructions from the ancient mega-gods. Once completed, one can also obtain the fragments of the Tao realm. Now, the ancient gods are fighting against the storm of the world will in the chaos realm. They cannot leave, so they let the ancient gods do things for them. Moreover, there is a Tao Tower in the Tao realm. This Tao Tower opens at a certain time. Every time it opens, there will be an earth-shattering event. I remember that the last time it was opened, all the ancient great gods fought with the will of the world, and the will of the world was forced to retreat to the primal chaos realm. There are even rumors that the ultimate peak of the Tao Pagoda is to become the master of the universe and completely possess this Tao realm. The old man continued. In truth, there are still many mysteries about the Tao realm. However, I don't know much about it. If you want to know more, you can look for Old Third Ghost. Rumor has it that he knows a bit about the Tao realm, and was one of the first ancient gods to enter the Tao realm. You should have been locked up here for a long time. Why are you so familiar with the Tao realm? Lin Ling asked again. Hee, my lord, how could we not have some tricks up our sleeves when we've reached our level of strength? Although they've been imprisoned, there are still some people in the outside world. Ancestor Hong Yin immediately said with a smile. Hearing this, Lin Ling instantly frowned and said with a smile that was not a smile. Oh, this means that if I leave the prison, you can let those people kill me. This is an extremely simple matter. My lord, I wouldn't dare. Although we have some people in the outside world, they are all scattered in the primal chaos realm and the Tao realm. Some of those people are successors, some are doppelgangers, and their strength is not strong at all. Moreover, we only communicate through some thoughts. It takes a lot of time and effort. For so many years, I've only spoken less than 100 words with that doppelganger in the outside world. Unfortunately, that doppelganger died in the end. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to ask you to find that child Hong Yin. The old man hurriedly explained. As for old third ghost, he's about the same. It takes 100,000 years for the people in the outside world to transmit a thought to him. Now that he's been trapped for so long, I'm afraid that the people in the outside world have died. However, old third ghost should be very familiar with some of the places in the Tao realm. After all, he's one of the earliest people to enter the Tao realm. Moreover, I've heard that there are a few ancient giant gods imprisoned in the square prison. They are the terrifying ones who are incomparably familiar with the Tao realm, and even the Tao Tower. The Tao realm was prepared in the primordial era. It is said that it is the only trump card against the will of the world, because this is the only variable that will appear in the great tribulation of the universe. This is also the place that allows the ancient great gods to grow rapidly and possess a host body that is not weaker than the will of the world. The old man continued to speak. According to Pure Sun, the primal chaos realm is in imminent danger, and many places are constantly being destroyed. No wonder they need the Tao realm. This is because this is the safest place for the ancient great gods to grow rapidly. Lin Ling secretly guessed. He looked at the old man and said, Well, I'll try my best to help you find Ancestor Hong Yin. As for old third ghost, after we enter, I'll try to talk to him. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Actually, with the square prison, sir, you will definitely become a powerful figure in the future, because there are too many ancient great gods imprisoned in the square prison. Through their mouths, sir, you will be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. However, there are still a few such prisons in the past. If someone else obtains them, those people will definitely become powerful figures in the future. Now let's see who grows faster. The old man looked at the departing Lin Ling and said with a smile. Lin Ling nodded and did not say anything else. In fact, how could he not know this? This prison had helped him several times. It seemed that the fairy of the 9 heavens had come to help him with this prison. After leaving the square prison, Lin Ling calculated the time. It was almost time to gather. He hurriedly flew in the direction of the island. After a long time, a large number of people had already gathered in front of him. When they saw Lin Ling flying over, their faces lit up with joy. Lin Ling looked carefully and found that Whitewater Pure Maiden and the others had returned. However, from their gloomy expressions, it was obvious that they did not find any entrance. Lin Ling was not surprised because he already knew that there was no entrance to this Tao realm. It had to be opened by someone. Lin Ling, how is it? Treasure God Nam Wufingyu walked towards Lin Ling and asked anxiously. Beside him, Whitewater Pure Maiden was the first to report the results of her investigation. I left the river, but the distance is vast and boundless. I can't see any entrance. It's strange because I can't see anything blocking me. However, I can't enter. Oh right, the surrounding river is very powerful. The giant crocodile's body is ferocious. Its strength is not weaker than a mid-god. Now, if we can't enter the Tao realm, then this trip will be in vain. We will have missed our chance. Yes. Chapter 4566. If only my father was here, he would have heard of the Tao realm. She added, Unfortunately, Lin Ling shook his head. The Dao realm was too ancient. Even Sky River Water God had only heard of it, not seen it. I wonder how Ling Nation and the 10 orthodoxies are going to enter. Someone else asked. It's simple, someone is helping them. Suddenly, a faintly discernible voice was heard. Under the sky, a figure was slowly walking towards them. He had a peachwood sword hanging on his waist, and a calm look on his face. He was only a dozen meters away from the people of the Thunder God Great Hall. However, everyone knew that there was a mysterious force blocking their path. They had entered Lei Gong's Great Hall. Actually, there's a barrier between us. It's called the Primordial Aura. The man said. Nan Wufingyu and the others were shocked. Primordial Aura? Why couldn't they see it? It's normal that you can't see it. Not everyone can see the Hongmeng Qi. However, I can tell you that it's impossible for you to open it with your strength. The only way is to ask for the help of an ancient great god in the Dao realm. The man seemed to have guessed their thoughts and continued. I'm the Maoshan immortal ancestor. I'm here to help you. You might think that I'm lying to you. But unfortunately, no one else can help you. Also, White Maiden, I've heard of you in the past. Your name? I've heard of you too. Maoshan immortal ancestor, the founding god of Taoism. I remember that you died back then. Why are you here now? White Maiden stared at the man, seemingly familiar with him. I'm indeed dead. In fact, I'm the reincarnation of the Maoshan immortal ancestor. Alright, do you need my help? The man smiled. What's the condition? Whitewater Pure Maiden immediately asked. 3 Dao Realm shards each, it's that simple. The man didn't hide anything. What's a Dao Realm shard? Treasure God Nanwufingyu spoke as well. Haha. Some unimportant things. But they are very important to me because they are related to my talent, and can improve my talent. So, all of you just have to make a blood oath, and say that each of you owes me 3 Dao Realm fragments. If you don't return them, it will be difficult for you to enter the Dao Realm in the future. The man nodded. Then, he revealed an admiring expression. I'm a very trusting person. So don't let me down. So simple. Everyone in Lei Gong's hall frowned. And many of them were tempted. This was probably how Spirit Nation and the 10 orthodoxies entered. Perhaps this was an unwritten rule of the Dao Realm. Unfortunately, they did not see it. Many ancient gods in the forest were laughing mockingly as they watched the Maoshan immortal ancestor duping the newbies. The newbies are so stupid. I can't believe they believed the Maoshan immortal ancestor's words. I wonder if they'll cry when they find out the importance of the fragments after they enter. Haha, that's for sure. But the Maoshan immortal ancestor said that I'm a very trusting person. He's really fooled us all. All in all, we finally have some Dao Realm fragments. The Maoshan immortal ancestor said that everyone who saw it will get a share. We'll all get 1 Dao Realm fragment, and he'll get 2. The ancient gods whispered among themselves. Not only were their expressions full of mockery, but they were also excited. You only need Dao Realm fragments? But how are we going to get them? And how are we going to give them to you? You're not trying to trick us, are you? At this time, Bai Shui Su Nu was cautious and asked again. Fair Maiden Bai, you're too much. They can doubt me, but you're from the same era as me, and yet you're doubting my character. You should know that gods who enter the Dao Realm are here to fight against the will of the world. We all want to see you become stronger. That's why I'm here to help you, but you're doubting me. The Maoshan immortal ancestor seemed to be angry. No, I'm just curious. How do we get Dao Realm fragments? Fair Maiden Bai quickly explained, afraid that he would leave in a huff. It's simple. Everyone will get 1 Dao Realm fragment every 100,000 years, so you can pay me back in 200,000 years. As for the first 100,000 years, that won't be necessary, because you'll get a Dao Realm fragment as soon as you enter the Dao Realm, and you'll be able to return to the heavenly realm, said Fair Maiden Bai. Alright, I'll ask for your opinion. Fair Maiden Bai finally nodded, then looked at Treasure God Nanwufingyu. Although they all felt that something was off, they had no idea what Dao Realm fragments were for. Moreover, if they couldn't even enter the Dao Realm, then the fragments were all fake. Therefore, after exchanging glances, they all agreed to the Maoshan immortal ancestor's request and swore a blood oath. The Maoshan immortal ancestor chuckled inwardly when he saw their expressions. These idiots had finally fallen for his trick. As long as they discovered the blood oath, as long as they were in the Tao realm and under its jurisdiction, the blood oath could never be violated. Just the thought of getting 3 Tao realm fragments so easily was enough to excite him. Is that enough? At that thought, the Maoshan immortal ancestor said calmly, "My time is limited. If you don't make a decision in 3 breaths, I'll be leaving. 1, 2, 3. Wait." Fair Maiden Bai and the others finally spoke, fearing that the Maoshan immortal ancestor would really leave. However, Lin Ling, who had been watching from the sidelines, finally spoke. "You can scram now." Scram? The Maoshan immortal ancestor thought that Fair Maiden Bai and the others were about to swear a blood oath. But one of the young men asked him to scram? Did he hear that right? In fact, even Fair Maiden Bai and the others thought that they had heard wrong. The situation was very clear. If the Maoshan immortal ancestor didn't help them, they wouldn't be able to enter the Tao realm at all. Therefore, the Tao realm fragments weren't important at all. Entering the Tao realm was the most important thing. Did I hear wrongly? The Maoshan immortal ancestor stared at Lin Ling, then opened his mouth and said again, "Look at my lips." Lin Ling walked out and pointed at his mouth. "You can scram now. If you don't hear me clearly, I'll say it 3 times. Fuck you, get the hell out of here. Fuck you, get the hell out of here. Fuck you, get the hell out of here." His voice echoed endlessly, spreading to the depths of the forest, causing countless ancient gods to be flabbergasted. They actually asked the Maoshan immortal ancestor to scram? Not to mention that this group of people had a favor to ask of them. Even if they didn't with such an arrogant tone, they had completely offended these ancient great gods. A group of newcomers dared to offend an ancient god? Did they have a death wish? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.